Isaiah. The vision of Isaiah the son of Amoz that he saw concerning Judah and Jerusalem in the days of Uzziah, Jotham, Ahaz, and Hezekiah, kings of Judah. Hear, O cosmos, and give ear, O earth, because YHWH has spoken. I have nourished and brought up children, and they have rebelled against me. The ox knows his owner and the donkey his master's feeding trough, but Israel does not know, my nation does not consider. O sinful nation, a people laden with depravity, a seed of wickedness, children that are corrupted, they have forsaken YHWH, they have abhorred the Holy One of Israel to spurn them, they are backsliders. Why should you be scourged any more? You will revolt more and more, the whole head is sick and the whole inner man fainted. From the sole of the foot even to the head there is no soundness in it, but wounds and bruises and fresh sores, they have not been closed, neither bandaged up, neither tendered with ointment. Your land is desolate, your cities are burnt with fire, your land, foreigners devour it in your presence, and it is desolate, as overthrown by foreigners. And the daughter of Zion is left as a thicket in a vineyard, as a lodge in a garden of cucumbers, as a blockaded city. Except YHWH of hosts had left to us a very small remnant, we should have been as Sodom and we should have been like Gomorrah. Hear the word of YHWH, you rulers of Sodom, give ear to the law of our Elohim, you people of Gomorrah. To what purpose is the multitude of your sacrifices to me, asks YHWH? I am full of whole burnt offerings of rams, and the fat of the well-fed, and I do not delight in the blood of young bulls, or of lambs, or male goats. When you come to appear before me, who has required this at your hand, to tread my courts? Bring no more empty offerings. Incense is a disgusting thing to me, the new moons and Sabbaths, the summoning of assemblies, I cannot bear these idolatrous assemblies. Your new moons and your appointed festivals I hate, they are a burden to me, I am weary to support them. And when you spread out your hands, I will hide my eyes from you, yes, when you make many prayers, I will not hear, your hands are full of blood. Wash and make yourself clean, turn aside from the bad of your doings from before my eyes, stop doing the bad, learn to do good, inquire, by Urim Thummim, of judgment, relieve the oppressed, judge the fatherless, plead for the widow. Come now, and let us reason together, says YHWH, though your sins are as scarlet, they will be as white as snow, though they be red like crimson, they will be as whiteness in garments. If you are willing and obedient, you will eat the good of the land. But if you refuse and rebel, you will be devoured with the sword, because the mouth of YHWH has spoken it. How is the faithful city become a prostitute? It was full of litigation, justice used to lodge there, but now the avenger. Your silver has become dross, your wine mixed with water, your rulers are rebellious and companions of thieves, everyone loves bribes, and follows after rewards, they judge not the fatherless, neither does the cause of the widow come to them. Therefore YHWH declares, YHWH of hosts, the mighty one of Israel, I am eased of my adversaries, and I am avenged of my enemies, and I will turn my hand on you, and I refine as purity your dross, and I turn aside all your alloy, and I will restore your government as in the beginning, and your counselors in those former times, afterward you will be called, the city of righteousness, the faithful city. Zion will be ransomed with judgment and her converts with righteousness. And the destruction of the transgressors and of the sinners will be together, and they that forsake YHWH will be consumed. Because they will be ashamed of the leaders that you have desired, and you will be embarrassed for the orchards that you have chosen. Because you will be as an terebinth tree whose leaf falls, and as an orchard that has no water. And the strong will be as a strand of flax, and its maker of it as a spark, and they will both burn together and none will quench it. The word that Isaiah the son of Amoz prophesied concerning Judah and Jerusalem. And it will come to pass in the last days, that the mountain of YHWH's temple will be established in the top of the mountains, and will be exalted above the hills, and all nations will flow to it. And many people will go and say, Come and let us go up to the mountain of YHWH, to the temple of the Elohim of Jacob, and he will teach us of his ways, and we will walk in his paths. Because out of Zion will go forth the Torah, and the word of YHWH from Jerusalem. And he will govern among the nations, and will judge many people, and they will beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation will not lift up sword against nation, neither will they learn war any more. O house of Jacob, come and let us walk in the light of YHWH. Therefore you have forsaken your nation, the house of Jacob, because they are replenished from the east and are soothsayers like the Philistines, and they please themselves in the children of foreigners. Their land also is full of money and gold, neither is there any end of their treasures. Their land is also full of horsepower, automobiles, neither is there any end of their chariots, vehicles. Their land also is full of worthlessness. They worship the work of their own hands, what their own fingers have produced, so the average man pays homage, as well as the man of means, therefore do not forgive them. Enter into the rock, and hide yourself in the ground for terror of YHWH, and for the glory of his majesty. The lofty looks of mankind will be humbled and the haughtiness of mortal men will be bowed down, and YHWH alone will be exalted in that day. Because the day of YHWH of hosts will be upon everyone that is proud and lofty, and upon everyone that is lifted up, and he will be brought low. And on all the cedars of Lebanon, that are high, and lifted up, and on all the oaks of Bashan, and on all the high mountains, and on all the hills that are lifted up, and on every high tower, and upon every fenced wall, and on all the ships of Tarshish, and on all the images of desire. And the haughtiness of human beings will be bowed down, and the loftiness of mortal man will be made low, and YHWH alone will be exalted in that day. And the worthless divination he will pass away. Then they will go into the holes of the rocks, and into the caves of the earth, for terror of YHWH and for the glory of his majesty, when he arises to shake terribly the earth. In that day a human being will cast his worthless silver and gold that they produced each one for himself to worship, to the moles and to the bats, to go into the clefts of the rocks and into the tops of the ragged rocks, for terror of YHWH and for the glory of his majesty, when he arises to shake terribly the earth. Cease you from mankind, whose breath is in his nostrils, because how is he to be accounted of? For look, YHWH of hosts, does remove from Jerusalem and from Judah the staff and the support, the whole staff of bread and the whole staff of water, the mighty man and the man of war, the judge and the prophet, and the diviners and the elder, the captain of 50 and the honorable man, and the counselor and the skillful technician, and the eloquent orator. And I will give children to be their rulers, and vexation will rule over them. Then the people will be oppressed, everyone by another and everyone by his neighbor, the child will behave himself proudly against the elder, and the base against the honorable. When one lays hold on his brother, of the house of his dad by the garment saying, Come, a ruler you are to us, and these ruins are under your hand. In that day will he adjure saying, I will not be a governor, because in my house is neither food nor clothing, so do not make me a ruler of the people. Because Jerusalem is ruined, and Judah is fallen, because their tongue and their practices are against YHWH, to provoke the eyes of his glory. The face of their countenance does witness against them, and they declare their sin as Sodom, they hide it not. Woe to their lives! Because they have rewarded bad to themselves. Tell you to the righteous, that it will be well with him, because they will eat the fruit of their doings. Woe to the criminal! It will be ill with him, because the reward of his hands will be appointed to him. As for my people, children are their oppressors and women rule over them. O my people, they that lead you cause you to err and destroy the course of your wayfaring. YHWH stands up to plead, and stands to judge the people. YHWH will enter into judgment with the elders of his people, and the chiefs, because you have ruined the vineyard, the plunder of the poor is in your homes. What to you? You bruise my people, and the faces of the poor you grind. An affirmation of YHWH of hosts, Adonai declares. Also YHWH declares, because the daughters of Zion are arrogant, and walk with stretched out necks and ogling eyes, walking and mincing as they go, and making a tinkling with their feet, therefore Adonai will strike with a scab the crown of the head of the daughters of Zion, and YHWH will make naked their secret parts. In that day Adonai will remove the bravery of their tinkling ornaments around their feet, and their front bands, and their pendants like the moon, the chains, bracelets, mufflers of the bonnets, and the ornaments of the legs, and of the bands, and of the perfume boxes, and amulets, rings, and nose jewels. The robes of state, and the mantles, cloaks, and the purse, glasses, fine linen, hoods, and the veils. And it has been, instead of spices muck, and instead of a girdle, a rope, and instead of curled work, baldness, and instead of an expensive robe a girdle of sackcloth. Your men will fall by the sword, and your mighty in the war. And her gates will lament and mourn, and she being desolate will sit on the ground. And in that day 7 women will take hold of one man saying, We will eat our own food and wear our own clothing, only let us be called by your name, to take away our disgrace. In that day will the branch of YHWH be beautiful and abundant, and the fruit of the land will be excellent and beautiful for them that are the escaped remnant of Israel. And it will come to pass that those that are left in Zion, and they that remain in Jerusalem, will be called sacred, even every one that is recorded among the living in Jerusalem. When Adonai will have washed away the excrement from the daughters of Zion, and will have purged the blood of Jerusalem from its center, by the spirit of judgment and by the spirit of burning. Then YHWH will create upon every living place of Mount Zion, and upon her assemblies, a cloud mass and smoke by day, and the bright flame of supernatural fire by night, because upon all the glory will be a canopy of divine protection. And there will be a tabernacle for a shade in the daytime from the heat, and for a place of refuge, and for a place of shelter from thunderstorm and rain. Now I will sing to my beloved one a song of Levitical choirs of my love concerning his vineyard. My beloved one has the son's vineyard in a place conquered by Israel. And he dug around it and cast out its stones, and planted it with the choicest species of vine, and built skyscrapers throughout the land, and also made a winepress and waited for it to produce vintage grapes, but it brought forth stinking and worthless things. And now, O inhabitants of Jerusalem and men of Judah, judge, I pray you, between me and my vineyard. What could have been done more to my vineyard that I have not done in it? I expected that it should bring forth grapes, but it brought forth stinking and worthless things. And now, pray, let me cause you to know what I am going to do to my vineyard, to turn aside its hedge for burning and breaching its fortifications, that will be trampled down. And I will lay it waste, it will not be pruned, nor cultivated, but there will come adamant flint and thorn bushes. I will also command the clouds that they rain no rain upon it. For the vineyard of YHWH of armed hosts is the house of Israel, and the men of Judah his delightful plantation, and he waited for justice, but found an outpouring of blood, for righteousness, but instead heard a cry of distress. Woe unto them that join house to house, that lay field to field until there is no living space left, and then you will live alone in the land. In my ears declared YHWH of armed hosts, of a truth many houses will be desolate, even distinguished and pleasant houses with none remaining. Yes, 10 acres, plowed by 10 yoke of oxen in one day, a vineyard will yield 6 gallons of wine, and 10 balances of seed will yield only 1 balance of grain. Woe unto them that get up early in the morning, that they may pursue strong drink, that continue until twilight, until wine inflames them. And the lyre, guitar, tambourine, flute, and wine are in their banquets, but they regard not the work of YHWH, neither considers the operation of his hands. Therefore my nation goes into exile, because they have no knowledge, and their honorable men are hungered by famine, and the masses are dried up with thirst. Therefore Sheol has widened herself, and opened wide her mouth with civil enactments prescribed by Elohim, and their splendor in abundance, and the uproar of revelers with them that are jubilant shall be brought down. And human beings will be weakened, and the champions will be abased, and the eyes of the high-minded will be humiliated. But YHWH of armed hosts will be exalted in judgment, and Elohim that is holy will be consecrated in righteousness. Then lambs will feed on their pasture, and waste places of the fat ones will sojourners consume. Woe unto them that draw depravity with cords of worthlessness, and sin as it were with a cart rope. Who are saying, let him hurry, let him speed up his work that we may see, and let the counsel of the Holy One of Israel approach, so that it may be clear to us. Woe unto them that call evil good, and good evil, that put darkness for light, and light for darkness, that put bitter for sweet, and sweet for bitter. Woe unto them that are skillful in their own eyes, and discerning in their own sight. Woe unto them that are the strong men who drink wine, and men of wealth who mixes intoxicating drinks. That justify the criminals for a bribe, the attorneys of the land, and take away the righteousness of the righteous from him. Therefore as the fire burns the stubble, and the tongue abandons the dry grass, so their roots will decay and their sprouts will ascend as dust, because they have cast away the Torah of YHWH of armed hosts, and despised the word of the Holy One of Israel. Therefore has the nostrils of YHWH flared against his people, and he has stretched forth his hand against them, and has sent judgment upon them, and the mountains quaked, and their corpses were awful in the streets. For all this his nostrils were not turned away, but his hand is stretched out still. And he will raise up a standard to the nations from afar, and will whistle to them from the ends of the earth, and they will come with speed swiftly. None of them will be exhausted or stagger among them, none of them will be drowsy or asleep, neither will the waist clothes of their loins be thrown open, nor the shoelaces of their shoes be torn up. Their arrows, bullets, are sharp, and all their archers bowed, their chariot horses' hoofs, armored vehicles, will be counted like flint, and their wheels like a storm wind. Their roaring will be like a lion, they will roar like young lions, yes, they will roar and lay hold of the prey and will carry it away safely, and no one will recover the spoil. And in that day they will roar against them like the roaring of the sea, and if one looks to the land, lo, darkness and oppression, and the luminaries are darkened in the skies above. In the year that King Uzziah died, I saw also Adonai sitting upon a throne, high and lifted up, and his train filled the temple. Above him were seraphim, each with 6 wings, and with 2 wings they covered their faces, with 2 they covered their feet, and the other 2 were for flying. And one cried to another and declared, Holy, holy, holy is YHWH of armed hosts. The whole earth is full of his glory. And the posts of the thresholds are moved by the voice of him who is calling, and the house is full of smoke. And I say, Woe to me, for I have been silent, because a man of unclean lips am I, and among a people of unclean lips I am residing, because the King, YHWH of armed hosts, have my eyes seen. Then flew one of the seraphim to me, having a live coal in his hand that he had taken with the tongs from off the altar. And he laid it upon my mouth and said, Lo, this has touched your lips and your depravity is taken away, and your sin is covered. Also I heard the voice of Adonai saying, Whom will I send and who will go for us? Then I said, Here I am, send me. And he spoke, Go and tell these people, Hear you indeed but do not understand, and see you indeed but perceive it not. Make the heart of this people fat, and make their ears grievous, and smear over their eyes unless they see with their eyes and hear with their ears, and understand with their heart, and turn back and are healed. Then I said, Adonai, how long? And he answered, Until the cities are crashed into ruins without inhabitant, and the houses are without people, and the land is wasted in ruins, and YHWH has removed men far away, and there is a great forsaking among those in the land. And though a tenth part remain in the land, it will be burned again. As a terebinth tree and as the great oak, whose substance is in them, when they cast their leaves, so the holy descendant will be its substance. And it came about in the days of Ahaz the son of Jotham, the son of Uzziah, king of Judah, that Rezin the king of Syria, and Pekah the son of Remaliah, king of Israel, went up toward Jerusalem to war against it, but could not prevail against it. And it was told the house of David saying, Syria is confederate with Ephraim. And his heart was moved, and the heart of his people, as the trees of the forest are moved with the wind. Then YHWH said to Isaiah, Go out now to meet Ahaz, you and Shear-Jashub your son, at the end of the conduit of the upper pool in the highway of the fuller's field, and say to him, Take heed and be quiet, fear not, neither be weak-minded for the two tails of these smoking firebrands, for the fierce anger of Rezin with Syria, and of the son of Remaliah. Because Syria, Ephraim, and the son of Remaliah, have taken injurious counsel against you, saying, Let us go up against Judah and vex it, and let us make a breach in there for us, and set a king in the middle of it, even the son of Tabiel. This is what Adonai YHWH declares, It will not stand, neither will it come to pass. Because the head of Syria is Damascus, and the head of Damascus is Rezin, and within 65 years will Ephraim be broken, that it is not a people. And the head of Ephraim is Samaria, and the head of Samaria is Remaliah's son. If you will not believe, certainly you will not be established. Then YHWH spoke again to Ahaz saying, Ask yourself a sign of YHWH Elohim, ask it either in the depth, or in the height above. But Ahaz replied, I will not ask, neither will I test YHWH. And Isaiah replied, Hear you now, O house of David, is it a small thing for you to weary men, but will you weary my Elohim also? Therefore Adonai himself will give you a sign, see, a virgin will conceive and bear a son, and will call his name Emmanuel. Butter and honey will he eat, that he may know to refuse the bad, and choose the good. Because before the child will know to refuse bad, and to fix on good, forsaken is the land you are vexed with, because of her two kings. YHWH will bring upon you and your people, and upon your ancestral house, days that have not come, from the day that Ephraim departed from Judah, even the king of Assyria. And it will come to pass in that day, that YHWH will hiss for the fly that is in the outskirts of the rivers of Egypt, and for the bee that is in the land of Assyria. And they will come and will settle down, all of them, in the steep ravines, and in the holes of the rocks, and upon all thorns and upon all bushes. In that same day will Adonai shave with a razor what is hired, namely, by them beyond the river, by the king of Assyria, the head and the hair of the feet, and it will also consume the beard. Then it will come about in that day, that a man will nourish a young cow, and 2 sheep, and it had come to pass from the abundance of the yielding of milk he eats butter, because butter and honey does everyone eat who is left in the heart of the land. And it will come about in that day, that every place will be, where there were 1,000 vines at 1,000 shekels, 25 pounds, it will be for briars and thorns. With arrows and with bows will people come there, because all the land will become briars and thorns. And on all hills that will be excavated with the mattock, there will not come from there the fear of briars and thorns, but it will be for the sending out of oxen, and for the treading of one of a flock. Then YHWH said to me, Take yourself a large tablet and write in it with a man's pen concerning Maher-shalal-Hash-baz. And I took to me faithful witnesses to record, Uriah the priest and Zechariah the son of Jeberechiah. And I approached, for sexual relations, the prophetess, and she conceived and gendered a son. Then YHWH said to me, Call his name Maher-shalal-Hash-baz, swift as booty, speedy as prey. Because before the child will have knowledge to cry, My dad and mom, the riches of Damascus and the plunder of Samaria will be removed, before the king of Assyria. YHWH spoke also to me again saying, Because this people refuses the waters of Shiloh that flow gently, and rejoice in Rezin and Remaliah's son, now therefore note, Adonai brings up upon them the waters of the river, strong and many, even the king of Assyria and all his glory, and he will come up over all his ravines, and go over all his river banks, and he will pass through Judah, he will overflow and pass over, he will reach even to the neck, and the stretching out of his wings will fill the expanse of your land, O Emmanuel. Associate yourselves, O you people, and you will be broken in pieces, and give ear, all you of far countries, clothe yourselves, and you will be broken in pieces, clothe yourselves and you will be broken in pieces. Take counsel together, and it will be frustrated. Speak the word and it will not stand, because Elohim is with us. Because YHWH spoke this to me with a strong hand, and instructed me that I should not walk in the habits of this people, saying, You do not say, a confederacy, to all to whom this people say, a confederacy, and its fear you do not fear, nor declare fearful. Consecrate YHWH of hosts himself, and let him be your fear and let him be your dread. And he will be for a sacred place, but for a stone Urim Thummim of striking and for a rock of stumbling to both the houses of Israel, for a trap and for a lure to the inhabitants of Jerusalem. And many among them will stumble and fall, and be broken in pieces and lured, and captured. Bind up the testimony, seal the body of priestly directions, Torah, among my disciples. And I will wait upon YHWH, that hides his presence from the house of Jacob, and I will wait for him. Observe, I and the descendants who YHWH has given me are for signs and for portents in Israel from YHWH of hosts that lives in Mount Zion. And when they will say to you, Consult with them that practice necromancy, and to soothsayers that peep, and that meditate, should not a people inquire, by Urim Thummim, to their Elohim? In behalf of the living should it seek to the dead? To the Torah and to the testimony, if they speak not according to this word, it is because there is no dawn in them. And they will pass through it alienated and hungry, and it will come to pass, that when they will be hungry, they will fret themselves and curse their king and their Elohim and look upward. Then they will look to the earth, and distress and darkness, gloom of anguish, and they will be driven to calamity. As the former time made light the land of Zebulun and the land of Naphtali, so the latter has honored the way of the sea, beyond the Jordan, Galilee of the nations. The people that walked in darkness have seen a great light, they that live in the land of the shadow of death, upon them has the light shined. You have multiplied the nation, and not increased the joy, they joy before you according to the joy in harvest, and as people rejoice when they divide the plunder. Because you have broken the yoke of his burden, and the staff of his shoulder, the rod of his oppressor, as in the day of Midian. Because every battle of the warrior is with quaking, and garments rolled in blood, but this will be with burning and fueled of supernatural fire. For to us a boy is born, to us a son is consecrated, and the government will be upon his shoulder, and his name will be called Wonderful, Counselor, the Mighty Elohim, the Age-lasting Father, the Prince of Peace. Of the increase of his government and peace there will be no end, upon the throne of David and upon his kingdom, to establish it and to support it with judgment and with justice from this time on to the ages of the ages. The zeal of YHWH of hosts will institute this. Adonai, YHWH, sent a word to Jacob and it has settled upon Israel. And all the people will know, even Ephraim and the inhabitants of Samaria, that say in the pride and magnitude of heart, The bricks are fallen down, but we will rebuild with cut stones, the sycamore trees are cut down, but we will change them into cedars. Therefore YHWH will set up the adversaries of Rezin against him, and join his enemies together, the Syrians before, and the Philistines behind, and they will devour Israel with open mouth. For all this his anger is not turned away, but his hand is stretched out still. Because the people turn not to him that strikes them, neither do they seek YHWH of hosts. Therefore YHWH will cut off from Israel head and tail, branch and rush, in one day. The elder and honorable, he is the head, and the speakers that teach lies, he is the tail. Because the leaders of this people cause them to err, and they that are led of them are swallowed up. Therefore Adonai, YHWH, will have no joy in their young men, neither will have mercy on their fatherless and widows, because every one is a hypocrite and bad, and every mouth speaks senselessness. For all this his anger is not turned away, but his hand is stretched out still. Because wickedness consumes as the fire, it will devour the briars and thorns, and will kindle in the thickets of the forest, and they will billow up like the lifting up of smoke. Through the outburst of YHWH of hosts is the land scorched, and the people will be as the fuel of the fire, no man will spare his brother. And he will snatch on the right hand, and be hungry, and he will eat on the left hand, and they will not be satisfied, they will eat everyone the flesh of his own arm Manasseh, Ephraim, and Ephraim Manasseh, and they together will be against Judah. For all this his anger is not turned away, but his hand is stretched out still. Woe to them that decree wicked statutes, and that record trouble that they have inscribed, to pervert the poor from judgment, and to plunder the legal rights from the poor of my people, that widows may be their spoil, and that they may plunder the fatherless. And what will you do in the day of custody, and in the desolation that will come from a distant place? To whom will you flee for help? And where will you leave your riches? Without me they will prostrate among the prisoners, and they will fall under the slain. For all this his anger is not turned away, but his hand is stretched out still. O Assyrian, the rod of my anger, and the staff in their hand is my indignation. I will send him against a hypocritical nation, and against the people of my outburst I will give him a charge, to take the booty, and to take the spoil, and to tread them down like the clay of the streets. And he thinks not so, and his heart reckons not so, for, to destroy is in his heart, and to cut off nations not a few. Because he says, Are not my princes altogether kings? Is not Calno as Carchemish? Is not Hamath as Arpad? Is not Samaria as Damascus? As my hand has gotten to the kingdoms of a worthless thing, and their graven images, greater than Jerusalem and than Samaria, shall I not, as I have done to Samaria and her idols, so do to Jerusalem and her idols? Therefore it will come to pass that when Adonai, YHWH, has performed his whole work upon Mount Zion and on Jerusalem, I will punish the fruit of the stout heart of the king of Assyria, and the glory of his high looks. Because he says, By the strength of my hand I have done this, and by my wisdom, for I am prudent, and I have removed the borders of the people, and have robbed their treasures, and I have put down the inhabitants like the valiant. And my hand has found as a nest the riches of the people, and as one gathers eggs that are left, have I gathered all the land, and there was none that moved the wing, or opened the mouth, or chirped. Will the axe boast itself against him that cuts with it? Or will the saw magnify itself against him that moves it to and fro? As if the rod should move itself against them that lift it up, or as if the staff should lift up itself, as if it were not wood. Therefore will the Master, Adonai of hosts, send among his fat ones leanness, and under his glory he will kindle a burning like the burning of a fire. And the light of Israel will be for a fire, and his Holy One for a tip of a weapon, and it will consume and devour his thorns and his briars in one day, and will consume the glory of his forest, and of his fruitful field, both mind and body, and they will be as when a standard-bearer faints. And the rest of the trees of his forest will be few, so that a child may record them. Then it will come about in that day that the remnant of Israel, and such as are escaped of the house of Jacob, will no more again trust on him that conquered them, but will trust on YHWH, the Holy One of Israel, in truth. The remnant will return, even the remnant of Jacob, to the mighty Elohim. Because though your people Israel are as the sand of the sea, still a remnant of them will return, the consumption decreed will overflow with righteousness. Because Adonai YHWH of hosts will ordain a consumption, even decreed for the center of all the land. Therefore this is what Adonai YHWH of hosts declares, O my people that reside in Zion, be not afraid of the Assyrian, he will beat you with a rod, and will lift up his staff against you, after the custom of Egypt. For yet a very little, and the indignation has been completed, and my anger by their wearing out. And YHWH of hosts will stir up a scourge for him according to the slaughter of Midian at the rock of Oreb, and as his staff was upon the sea, so will he lift it up after the custom of Egypt. And it will come to pass in that day, that his burden will be taken away from off your shoulder, and his yoke from off your neck, and the yoke will be destroyed from the presence of the anointing. He is come to Iath, he has passed to Migron, at Michmash he has laid up his implements, they are gone over the ford, they have taken up their lodging at Geba, Ramah is afraid, Gibeah of Saul is fled. Lift up your voice, O daughter of Galim, cause it to be heard in Laish, O poor Anatoth. Madmenah is removed, the inhabitants of Gebim gather themselves to flee. Today he will halt at Nob, he will shake his hand at the mount of the daughter of Zion, the hill of Jerusalem. Look, YHWH of hosts will lop the bow with terror, and the proud of stature will be cut down, and the proud will be humbled. And he will cut down the thickets of the forest with iron, and Lebanon will fall by a great one. Then there will sprout a branch out of the stem of Jesse, and the branch will bear fruit from his roots, and the spirit of YHWH will rest upon him, the spirit of wisdom and understanding, the spirit of counsel and might, the spirit of knowledge and of reverence for YHWH, and will make him of quick understanding in the respect of YHWH, and he will not judge after the sight of his eyes, neither correct after the hearing of his ears, but with righteousness will he judge the poor, and correct with equity for the meek of the earth, and he will strike the land with the rod of his mouth, and with the breath of his lips will he kill the guilty. Then righteousness will be the waistcloth of his hips, and faithfulness the waistcloth of his reins. The wolf also will live with the lamb, and the leopard will lie down with the young male goat, and the calf and the young lion with the well-fed together, and a little child will lead them. And the heifer and the bear will feed, their young ones will lie down together, and the lion will eat straw like the ox. And the nursing child will play on the hole of the venomous snake, and the weaned child will put their hand on the viper serpent's den. They will not hurt nor destroy in all my holy mount, because the earth will be full of the knowledge of YHWH, as the waters cover the sea. And in that day there will be a root of Jesse that will stand for an ensign of the people, to it will the Gentiles seek, and his resting place will be glorious. Then it will come about in that day that Adonai, YHWH, will set his hand again the second time to recover the remnant of his people that will be left, from Assyria, Egypt, Pathros, Cush, Elam, Shinar, Hamath, and from the islands of the sea. Then he will set up an ensign for the nations and will assemble the outcasts of Israel, and gather together the dispersed from Judah from the four corners of the earth. The envy also of Ephraim will depart, and the adversaries of Judah will be cut off. Ephraim will not envy Judah, and Judah will not vex Ephraim. But they will fly upon the shoulders of the Philistines toward the west, they will plunder them from the east together, they will lay their hands on Edom and Moab, and the children of Ammon will obey them. And YHWH will utterly destroy the tongue of the Egyptian sea, and with his mighty wind will he shake his hand over the river, and will break it into 7 streams, and make people go over it on sandals. There will also be a highway for the remnant of his people that will be left, from Assyria, like it was with Israel in the day that he came up out of the land of Egypt. Now in that day you will say, O YHWH, I will praise you, though you were angry with me, your anger has turned away, and you comfort me. See, Elohim is my deliverance, I will trust and not be afraid, because YHWH is my strength and my song, and he is to me for salvation. Therefore with joy will you draw water out from the spring of salvation. And in that day will you say, Praise YHWH, call upon his name, declare his doings among the people, make mention that his name is exalted. Sing to YHWH, because he has done excellent things, this is known in all the earth. Cry out and shout, you inhabitants of Zion, because great is the Holy One of Israel among you, the oracle of Babylon that Isaiah the son of Amoz did see. Lift yourself up a banner on the high hill, exalt the voice to them, beckon them on that they may go into the gates of the nobles. I have commanded my consecrated ones, I have also called my mighty ones for my anger, even those that exalt in majesty. A voice of a multitude in the mountains, a likeness of a numerous people, a voice of noise from the kingdoms of nations who are gathered, YHWH of hosts inspecting an army for battle. They come from a far country, from far in the horizon, even YHWH and the weapons of his indignation, to destroy the whole land. Howl you, because the day of YHWH is at hand, it will come as a destruction from Shaddai. Therefore will all hands be faint, and everyone's heart will melt. And they will be terrified, pangs and sorrows will take hold of them, they will be in pain as a woman in childbirth, they will be stunned one at another, their faces will be as flames. Watch, the day of YHWH comes, cruel both with fury and fierce anger, to lay the land desolate, and he will destroy the sinful out of it. Because the stars of the cosmos and the constellations will not give their light, the sun will be darkened when it rises, and the moon will not cause its light to shine. And I will punish the world for their badness, and the guilty for their depravity, and I will cause the arrogance of the proud to cease, and will lay low the pride of the ruthless. I will make a man more precious than fine gold, even a man than the golden wedge of Ophir. Therefore I will shake the cosmos, and the earth will remove out of its place, in the fury of YHWH of hosts, and in the day of his fierce anger. And it will be as the chaste gazelle and as a sheep that no man gathers, they will every man turn to his own people, and flee every one into their own land. Every one that is found will be thrust through, and every one that is joined to them will fall by the sword. Their children also will be dashed to pieces, before their eyes, their houses will be plundered and their women raped. See, I will stir up the Medes against them that will not regard silver, and as for gold, they will not delight in it. Their bows also will dash the young men to pieces, and they will have no pity on the fruit of the womb, their eye will not spare children. And Babylon, the glory of kingdoms, the beauty of the Chaldees' excellency, will be as when Elohim overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah. It will never be inhabited, neither will it be lived in from generation to generation, neither will the Arabian pitch tent there, neither will the shepherds make their camps there. But wild animals of the desert will lie there, and their houses will be full of jackals, and owls will live there, and satyrs will dance there. And the wild animals of the islands will cry in their desolate houses, and serpents in their pleasant palaces, and her time is near to come, and her days will not be postponed. Because YHWH will have mercy on Jacob, and will still choose Israel, and set them in their own land, and the foreigners will be joined with them, and they will cling to the house of Jacob. And the people will take them and bring them to their standing place, and the house of Israel will inherit them in the land of YHWH for slaves and slave girls, and they will take them captives, whose captives they were, and they will rule over their oppressors. And it will come to pass in the day that YHWH will give you rest from your sorrow, and from your terror, and from the hard bondage where you were made to serve, that you will take up this proverb against the king of Babylon and say, How has the oppressor ceased? The golden city ceased. YHWH has broken the staff of the wicked, and the scepter of the rulers. He who attacked the people in anger with a continual stroke, he that ruled the nations in anger, is persecuted and none restrain. The whole earth is at rest and is quiet, they burst forth with singing. Yes, the fir trees, rejoice at you and the cedars of Lebanon, saying, since you are laid down, no logger has come up against us. Sheol from beneath is moved for you to meet you at your coming, it stirs up the spirits for you, even all the chief ones of the earth, it has raised up from their thrones all the kings of the nations. All they will speak and say to you, are you also become weak as we? Are you become like us? Your pomp is brought down to Sheol, and the noise of your bagpipes, the maggot is spread under you and the worms cover you. How are you fallen from the skies, O Lucifer, son of the morning? How are you cut down to the ground that did weaken the nations? Because you have said in your heart, I will ascend into the cosmos, I will exalt my throne above the stars of Elohim, I will sit also upon the mount of the appointed place, in the recesses of the north star, I will ascend above the heights of the clouds, I will be like the Most High. Yet you will be brought down to Sheol, to the recesses of the pit. They that see you will narrowly look upon you, and consider you saying, is this the man, referring to Lucifer, that made the earth to tremble, that did shake kingdoms, that made the world as a wilderness, and destroyed its cities, that opened not the house of his prisoners? All the kings of the nations, even all of them lie in glory, everyone in his own house. But you are cast out of your tomb like an abominable branch, and as the garment of those that are killed, thrust through with a sword, that descend to the stones of the pit, as a carcass trampled underfoot. You will not be joined with them in burial, because you have destroyed your land and killed your people, the descendants of evil will never be appointed. Prepare slaughter for his children for the depravity of their ancestors, that they do not rise, never resurrected, nor possess the land, nor fill the face of the world with cities. Because I will rise up against them, declares YHWH of hosts, and cut off from Babylon the name, remnant, son, and nephew, declares YHWH. I will also make it a possession for the hedgehog, and pools of water, and I will sweep it with the broom of extermination, declares YHWH of hosts. YHWH of hosts has adjured saying, certainly as I have thought, so will it come to pass, and as I have purposed, so will it stand, that I will break the Assyrian in my land, and upon my mountains tread him under foot, then will his yoke depart from off them, and his burden depart from off their shoulders. This is the purpose that is purposed upon the whole earth, and this is the hand that is stretched out upon all the nations. Because YHWH of hosts has purposed, and who will violate it? And his hand is stretched out, and who will turn it back? In the year that King Ahaz died was this oracle. Rejoice you not, Philistia, state of Palestine, all of you, that broken has been the rod of your attacker. For from the root of a serpent comes out a viper, and its fruit is a flying serpent. And the firstborn of the poor will feed, and the needy will lie down in safety, and I will kill your root with famine, and he will kill your remnant. Hell, O gate, cry O city, you, whole Palestina, state of Palestine, are dissolved, because there will come from the north a smoke, and there is not a straggler in his ranks. What will one then answer the messengers of the nation? That YHWH has founded Zion, and the poor of his people will seek refuge in it. The oracle of Moab. Because in the night, Ar of Moab is laid waste and brought to silence, because in the night, Kir of Moab is laid waste, and brought to silence, he is gone up to Baith, and to Dibon, the high places, to weep. Moab will wail over Nebo, and over Medeba, on all their heads will be baldness, and every beard cut off. In their streets they will gird themselves with sackcloth, on the tops of their houses, and in their streets, everyone will wail, falling down to weep. And Heshbon will cry, and Elealeh, their voice will be heard even to Jahaz, therefore the armed soldiers of Moab will cry out, his life will be troubled to him. My heart is toward Moab, cried do her fugitives unto Zoar, a heifer of the third year, for the ascent of Luhith, with weeping he goes up in it, for in the way of Horonaim, a cry of destruction they wake up. Because the waters of Nimrim will be desolate, because the hay is withered away, the grass fails, there is no green thing. Therefore the abundance they have gotten, and what they have laid up will they carry away to the Wadi of the Willows. Because the cry is gone throughout the borders of Moab, the wailing to Eglaim, and the howling to Beerlim. Because the waters of Dimon will be full of blood, because I will bring more upon Dimon, lions upon him that escapes from Moab, and upon the remnant of the land. Send you the lamb to the ruler of the land from Selah to the wilderness, to the mount of the daughter of Zion. Because it will be, that as a wandering bird cast out of its nest, so the daughters of Moab will be at the fords of Arnon. Take counsel, execute judgment, make your shadow as the night in the midst of the noonday, conceal the outcasts, do not betray the fugitive. Let my outcasts live with you Moab, be to them a hiding place from the presence of the spoiler, because the oppressor comes to an end and the devastation ceases, the oppressors are consumed out of the land. And in mercy will the throne be established, and he will sit upon it in truth and the tabernacle of David, judging and seeking judgment, and prompting righteousness. We have heard of the pride of Moab, he is very proud, even of his haughtiness, and his pride, and his arrogance, but his lies will not be so. Therefore will Moab wail for Moab, everyone will wail, for the foundations of Kiresheth will you mourn, certainly they are broken. Because the fields of Heshbon languish, and the vine of Sibmah, the lords of the heathen have broken down the principal plants, they are come even to Yazer, they wandered through the wilderness, her branches are stretched out, they are gone over the sea. Therefore I will shed tears with the weeping of Yazer the vine of Sibmah, I will water you with my tears, O Heshbon, and Elealeh, because the shouting for your summer fruits and for your harvest is cast down. Then gladness is removed, and joy out of the plentiful field, and in the vineyards there will be no singing, neither will there be shouting, the treaders will tread out no wine in their presses, I have made their vintage cheering to cease. Therefore my bowels will sound like a lyre for Moab, and my inward parts for Kir-Haresh. And it will come about, when it is seen that Moab is exhausted on the high place, that he will come to his sanctuary to pray, but he will not prevail. This is the word that YHWH has spoken concerning Moab since that time. But now YHWH has spoken saying, within 3 years, as the years of a hired laborer, the glory of Moab will be despised with all that great multitude, and the remnant will be very small and feeble. The Oracle of Damascus. Note, Damascus is removed from being a city, and it will be a ruinous heap. The cities of Aroer are abandoned, they will be for flocks that will lie down, and none will make them afraid. The fortress also will cease from Ephraim, and the kingdom from Damascus, and the remnant of Syria, they will be as the glory of the children of Israel, declares YHWH of hosts. And in that day it will come to pass that the glory of Jacob will be brought low, and the fatness of his flesh will grow lean. Then it will be as when the harvester gathers the standing grain, and reaps the ears with his arm, and it will be as he that gathers ears in the valley of Rephaim, old race of giants. Still gleaning grapes will be left in it, as the shaking of an olive tree, 2 or 3 berries in the top of the uppermost branch, 4 or 5 on the outer fruitful branches, says YHWH Elohim of Israel. At that time will a human being look to his Maker, and his eyes will have respect to the Holy One of Israel. And he will not look to the altars, the work of his hands, neither will respect what his fingers have fashioned, either the groves or the images. In that day will his stronghold cities be as a forsaken branch, and an uppermost branch that they left because of the children of Israel, and there will be desolation. Because you have forgotten the Elohim of your salvation, and have not been mindful of the rock, Urim Thummim, of your strength, therefore will you plant pleasant plants, and will dress it with alien seedlings. In the day will you make your plant to grow, and in the morning you will make your seed to flourish, but the harvest will be a heap in the day of grief and of desperate sorrow. Woe to the multitude of many people that make a sound like the roar of the seas, and to the uproar of nations that crash into ruins like the crashing of mighty waters. The nations will crash like the roaring of many waters, but Elohim will rebuke them, and they will flee to distant places, and will be chased as the chaff of the mountains before the wind, and like a whirl of dust before the storm. At sunset, lo, terror, before morning it is not, this is the portion of our spoilers, and the lot of our plunderers. Woe to the land of the spear and wing that is beyond the rivers of Africa, that is sending by sea ambassadors, even with implements of reed on the face of the waters. Go, ye light messengers, to a nation drawn out and peeled, to a people fearful from its beginning and onwards, a nation meeting out by line, and treading down, whose land floods have spoiled. All you inhabitants of the world and dwellers on the land, note, when he lifts up an ensign on the mount, and when he blows a trumpet, then you listen. For so YHWH said to me, I will take my rest and I will regard my established place as resembling a dazzling hot light and cloud mass of night mist, pillar of fire and cloud mass, in the heat of harvest. For before harvest, when the flower is perfect and the blossom is producing unripe fruit, then has one cut the sprigs with pruning hooks and the branches he has turned aside, cut down. They will be left together to the fowls of the mountains, and to the animals of the earth, and the fowls will summer upon them, and all the beasts of the earth will winter upon them. In that time is a present brought to YHWH of hosts, a nation drawn out and peeled. Even of a people fearful from the beginning, a nation meeting out by line, and treading down, whose land floods have spoiled, to the place of the name of YHWH of hosts, Mount Zion. The Oracle of Egypt. Watch, YHWH rides upon a swift cloud mass, and will come into Egypt, and the idols of Egypt will be tossed about at his presence, and the heart of Egypt will dissolve within them. And I will set the Egyptians against the Egyptians, and they will fight everyone against his brother, and everyone against his neighbor, city against city and kingdom against kingdom. And emptied out has been in its midst the spirit of Egypt. And its counsel I swallow up, and they have sought unto idols, and to the charmers, and to those that practice necromancy, and to the soothsayers. And the Egyptians I will give over into the hand of a cruel master, and a fierce king will rule over them, declares YHWH, YHWH of hosts. And the waters will fail from the sea, and the river will be wasted and dried up. And they have turned away the flowing, weak and dried up have been brooks of the bulwark, reed and flag have withered. The paper reeds by the brooks, by the mouth of the brooks, and everything sown by the brooks, will wither, be driven away, and will not exist. The fishermen also will mourn, and all they that cast angle into the brooks will mourn, and they that spread nets on the waters will languish. Moreover they that work in fine flax, and they that weave networks, will be put to shame. And its foundations have been attacked, all making wages are afflicted in their lives. Certainly the rulers of Zoan are fools, the advice of the wise counselors of Pharaoh has become barbarous. How you say to Pharaoh, I am the son of the wise, the son of ancient kings? Where are they? Where are your wise ones? And let them tell you now, and let them know what YHWH of hosts has purposed upon Egypt. The rulers of Zoan are become fools, the princes of Noph are deceived, they have also seduced Egypt, even they that are the cornerstones of the tribes. YHWH has mingled a perverse spirit in its center, and they have caused Egypt to err in every work, as a drunken man staggers in his vomit. Neither will there be any work for Egypt that the head or tail, branch or rush, may do. In that day will Egypt become like women, and it will be afraid and terrified because of the shaking of the hand of YHWH of hosts that he shakes over it. Then the land of Judah will be a terror to Egypt, everyone that makes mention of it will be afraid in himself, because of the counsel of YHWH of hosts that he has determined against it. In that day will 5 cities in the land of Egypt speak the language of Canaan, and adjure to YHWH of hosts. One will be called the City of Destruction. In that day will there be an altar to YHWH in the center of the land of Egypt, and a pillar at the border to YHWH. And it will be for a sign and for a witness to YHWH of hosts in the land of Egypt, because they will cry to YHWH because of the oppressors, and he will send them a Savior, and a great one, and he will deliver them. Then YHWH will be known to Egypt, and the Egyptians will know YHWH in that day, and will do sacrifice and oblation. Yes, they will vow a vow to YHWH and perform it. And YHWH will attack Egypt, he will strike and heal it, and they will return to YHWH, and he will be entreated of them, and will heal them. In that day will there be a highway out of Egypt to Assyria, and the Assyrian will come into Egypt, and the Egyptian into Assyria, and the Egyptians will serve with the Assyrians. In that day will Israel be the third with Egypt and with Assyria, even a blessing in the center of the land, who YHWH of hosts will bless, saying, Blessed is Egypt my people, and Assyria the work of my hands, and Israel my inheritance. In the year that Tartan came to Ashdod, when Sargon the king of Assyria sent him, and fought against Ashdod, and captured it, at the same time spoke YHWH by Isaiah the son of Amoz, saying, Go and loose the sackcloth from off your hips, and take off your shoe from your foot. And he did so, walking naked and barefoot. And YHWH said, Like my slave Isaiah has walked naked and barefoot 3 years for a sign and wonder upon Egypt and Ethiopia, so will the king of Assyria lead away the Egyptians prisoners, and the Ethiopians captives, young and old, naked and barefoot, even with their buttocks uncovered, to the shame of Egypt. And they will be afraid and ashamed of Ethiopia their expectation, and of Egypt their glory. And the inhabitant of this coastline will say in that day, See, such is our expectation, where we flee for help to be delivered from the king of Assyria, and how will we escape? The oracle of the desert of the sea. As whirlwinds in the south pass through, so it comes from the desert, from a terrible land. A cruel vision is declared to me, the treacherous dealer deals treacherously, and the plunder spoils. Go up, O Elam, besiege, O Media, all the groanings have I made to cease. Therefore my hips are filled with pain, distresses have taken hold on me, as the pain of a woman that gives birth. I was bowed down at the hearing of it, I was dismayed at the seeing of it. My heart panted, fearfulness terrified me, the night of my pleasure has he turned into fear for me. Prepare the table, watch in the watchtower, eat, drink, arise, warden, and anoint the armed. Because this is what Adonai, YHWH, has declared to me, Go, set a watchman, let him declare what he sees. And he saw a chariot with a couple of horsemen, a chariot of donkeys, and a chariot of camels, and he listened diligently with much heed, and he cried, A lynx, my Adonai, I stand continually by day upon the watchtower, and I am stationed in my ward whole nights, and, look, here comes a chariot of men with a couple of horsemen. And he answered and said, Babylon is fallen, and all the graven images of her Elohim he has broken to the ground. O my threshing, and the corn of my floor, what I have heard of Yhwh of hosts, the Elohim of Israel, have I declared to you. The oracle of Duma. He calls to me out of Seir, Watchman, what of the night? Watchman, what of the night? The watchman replied, the morning comes, and also the night, if you will inquire you, turn back, come. The oracle upon Arabia. In the forest in Arabia will you lodge, O you traveling companies of Dedanim. The inhabitants of the land of Tema brought water to him that was thirsty, they prevented with their bread him that escaped. Because they fled from the swords, from the drawn sword, and from the bent bow, and from the heaviness of war. Because this has been what Adonai, Yhwh, said to me, within a year, according to the years of a hired laborer, and all the glory of Kedar will fail. Then the residue of the number of archers, the mighty men from the children of Kedar, will be diminished, because Yhwh Elohim of Israel has spoken it. The oracle from the valley of vision. What ails you then, that you have all gone up to the housetops? You that are full of clamor, a disquieted city, a jubilant city, your fatally wounded men are not killed with the sword, nor dead in war. All your commanders are retreated together, they are taken prisoner by the archers, all that are found in you are imprisoned together that have been driven from distant lands. Therefore I said, look away from me, I will weep bitterly, labor not to comfort me, because of the violence of the daughter of my people. Because it is a day of trouble and of treading down, and of perplexity by Adonai Yhwh of hosts in the valley of vision, and undermining of walls, and of crying unto the mountains. And Elam, Arab, lifted up the quiver with chariots of men and horsemen, and Kir uncovered the shield. And it will come to pass, that your choicest valleys will be full of chariots, and the horsemen will set themselves in array at the gate. And the defenses of Judah have been removed, and you did look in that day to the armor of the house of the timberlands. You have also seen the rift in the city of David, that they are many, and you gathered together the waters of the lower pool. And you have numbered the houses of Jerusalem, and the houses you have broken down to fortify the wall. You also made a reservoir between the two walls for the water of the old pool, but you have not looked to the maker thereof, neither had respect for him that fashioned it long ago. And in that day did Adonai Yhwh of hosts call to weeping, and to mourning, and to baldness and to girding on with sackcloth, and look, joy and gladness, slaying oxen and killing sheep, eating flesh, and drinking wine, let us eat and drink, for tomorrow we will die. And it was revealed in my ears by Yhwh of hosts, this depravity will certainly not be purged from you until you die, says Adonai Yhwh of hosts. This is what Adonai Yhwh of hosts declares, come now to this steward, elected official, even to Shebna that is over the house, and say, what are you doing here and who are your descendants here that you have cut yourself a tomb here, as he that cuts himself out a tomb up high, and that cuts out a residence for himself in a rock, stronghold of Yhwh? Look, Yhwh is about to hurl you headlong, O strong one. And he is about to grasp you securely in his strength. He will violently turn and toss you like a ball into a large region, and there will you die, and there the chariots of your glory will be the shame of your master's house. And I will drive you from your garrison, and from your official post will he pull you down. And it will come about in those times that I will call out and commission my slave Eliakim, Elohim sets up, the son of Hilkiah, and I will clothe him with your tunic, and strengthen him with your girdle, of the high priest, and I will bestow your government into his hand, and he will be a father to the inhabitants of Jerusalem, and to the house of Judah. And the opening instrument, Urim Thummim, having been with the house of David will I consecrate upon his shoulder, so that he will open, and none will shut, and he will shut, and none will open. And I will drive him as a peg in the established place, and he will be for a glorious throne to his father, Levi's house. And they will hang upon him all the glory of his father, Levi's house, the descendants and the offshoot, all vessels of small quantity, from the vessels of cups, even to all the articles of musical instruments. In that day, declares Yhwh of hosts, will the peg that is driven in the sure place be removed, and be cut down and fall, and a load that was upon it will be cut off, because Yhwh has commanded it. The oracle of Tyre. Wail, you ships of Tarshish, because it is laid waste, so that there is no house, no entering in, from the land of Kittim it is revealed to them. Be silent, you inhabitants of the coast, you who the merchants of Zidon that pass over the sea have made wealthy. And on many waters came the grain of Sihor, the revenue of the Nile is her increase, and she is a marketplace of the nations. Be you ashamed, O Zidon, because the sea has spoken, even the strength of the sea saying, I writhe not, nor bring forth children, neither do I magnify young men, nor bring up virgins. As at the report concerning Egypt, so will they be writhing in pain at the report of Tyre. Pass yourselves over to Tarshish, well you inhabitants of the coasts. Is this your joyous city, whose antiquity is of ancient days? Her own feet will carry her to distant places. Who has taken this counsel against Tyre, the crowning city whose merchants are princes, whose traders are the honorable of the earth? YHWH of hosts has purposed it, to stain the pride of all glory and to bring into contempt all the honorable of the earth. Pass through your land as a river, O daughter of Tarshish, there is no more strength. He stretched out his hand over the sea, he shook the kingdoms. YHWH has given a commandment against the merchant city, to destroy its strongholds. And he said, you will no more rejoice, O you oppressed virgin, daughter of Zidon, get up, pass over to Kittim, there also will you have no rest. Lo, the land of the Chaldeans, this people was not, Ashur founded it for the Zim, they raised its watchtowers, they lifted up her palaces, he has appointed her for a ruin. Wail, you ships of Tarshish, because your strength is laid waste. And it will come to pass in that day that Tyre will be forgotten 70 years, according to the days of one king, after the end of 70 years will Tyre sing as a prostitute. Take an lyre, go about the city, you prostitute that has been forgotten, make a sweet melody, sing many songs so that you may be remembered. And it will come to pass after the end of 70 years, that YHWH will visit Tyre, and she will turn to her hire, and will commit fornication, resume trading commerce, with all the kingdoms of the world upon the face of the earth. And her merchandise and her hire will be holiness to YHWH, it will not be treasured nor laid up, for her merchandise will be for them that live before YHWH, to eat sufficiently and for durable clothing. Look, YHWH makes the earth empty and makes it waste, and turns it upside down and scatters abroad its inhabitants. And it will be, as with the people, so with the leaders, as with the slave, so with his master, as with the maid, so with her mistress, as with the buyer, so with the seller, as with the lender, so with the borrower, as with the creditor, so with the lender to him. The land will be utterly laid waste and despoiled, because YHWH has spoken this word. The earth mourns and fades away, the world languishes and fades away, the arrogant people of the earth become feeble. The earth also is defiled under its inhabitants, because they have transgressed the laws, changed the ordinance, broken the age-lasting covenant. Therefore has the curse devoured the earth, and they that live there are desolate, therefore the inhabitants of the earth are scorched, and few of mankind survive. The new wine mourns, the vine droops, all the partygoers groan. The rejoicing of tambourines ceases, the din of them that party stops, the joy of the guitars cease. They will not drink wine with a song, strong drink will be bitter to them that drink it. The city of confusion is broken down, every house is shut up so that no man may come in. There is a crying for wine in the streets, all joy is darkened, the partying of the land is gone. In the city is left desolation, and the gate is struck with destruction. When it will be so in the midst of the land among the people, there will be as the shaking of an olive tree, and as the gleaning grapes, when the vintage is done. They will lift up their voice, they will sing for the majesty of YHWH, they will cry aloud from the sea. Therefore glorify YHWH in the fires, even the name of YHWH Elohim of Israel in the islands of the sea. From the uttermost part of the earth have we heard songs, even glory to the righteous. But I said, my leanness, woe to me. The treacherous dealers have dealt treacherously, yes, the treacherous dealers have dealt very treacherously. Fear and the pit and the snare are upon you, O inhabitant of the earth. And it shall come to pass, that he who flees from the noise of the fear will fall into the pit, and he that comes up out of the midst of the pit will be taken in the snare. Because the windows from on high are open and the foundations of the earth do quake. Utterly broken down has been the land, utterly broken has been the land, utterly moved has been the land. The earth will reel to and fro like a drunkard, and will be removed like a cottage, and its transgression will be heavy upon it, and it will fall and not rise again. And it will come about in that day, that YHWH will punish the armies of the high ones that are on high, and the kings of the earth upon the earth. Then they will be gathered together, as prisoners are gathered in the pit, and will be shut up in the prison, and after many days will they be visited. Then the moon will be confounded, and the sun ashamed, when YHWH of hosts will reign in Mount Zion, and in Jerusalem, and before his elders gloriously. O YHWH, you are my Elohim, I will exalt you, I will praise your name, because you have done wonderful things, your counsels of old are faithfulness and truth. Because you have made of a city a heap of stones, of a fortified city a ruin, a palace of foreigners to be no city, it will never be rebuilt. Therefore will the fierce people glorify you, the city of the terror-striking nations will fear you. Because you have been a place of safety to the poor, a refuge, to the needy in their straits, a shelter from the storm, a shadow from the drought, when the blast of the mighty is like a storm against the wall. You will bring down the uproar of foreigners, as the drought in a parched land, even the parching heat with the shadow of the cloud mass, the pruning of the terror striking will be brought low. And in this mountain will YHWH of hosts make to all people a feast of fat things, a feast of wines on the lees, of fat things full of marrow, of wines on the lees well refined. And he will engulf in this mountain the face of the envelope cast over all people, and the veil that is woven over all nations. He will engulf death in victory, and Adonai YHWH will wipe away tears from off all faces, and the scorn of his people he will remove from off the entire earth, because YHWH has declared it. Then it will be said in that day, Lo, this is our Elohim, we have waited for him and he will save us, this is YHWH, we have waited for him, we will be glad and rejoice in his salvation. Because in this mountain will the hand of YHWH rest, and Moab will be trampled down under him, even as straw is trampled down in the manure. And he will spread out his hands among them, as he that swims spreads out his hands to swim, and he will bring down their pride together with the deceit of their hands. And the fortress of the high fort of your walls will he bring down, lay low, and bring to the ground, even to the dust. In that day will this song be sung in the land of Judah, we have a strong city, salvation will Elohim appoint for walls and bulwarks. Open ye the gates so that the righteous nation that guards the truth may enter in. You will guard him in complete peace, whose mind is resting on you, because he trusts in you. Trust you in YHWH for the ages, because in Yah YHWH is age-lasting strength. Because he brings them down that live on high, the lofty city, he lays it low, even to the ground, he brings it to the dust. The foot will tread it down, even the feet of the poor and the steps of the needy. The way of the righteous is equity, you, most upright, do weigh the path of the righteous. Yes, in the way of your judgments O YHWH, have we waited for you, the desire of our life is toward your name, and to the remembrance of you. With my life have I desired you in the night, yes, with my mind within me will I seek you early, because when your judgments are in the earth, the inhabitants of the world will learn righteousness. The guilty find grace, he has not learned righteousness, in a land of straightforwardness he deals perversely, and sees not the excellency of YHWH. YHWH, when your hand is lifted up, they will not see, but they will see and be ashamed for their envy at the people. Yes, the fire of your enemies will devour them. YHWH, you will give us peace, because all our works are the outcome of your designs. O YHWH Elohim, other lords beside you have had dominion over us, but by you only will we make mention of your name. Dead, they live not, Rephaim, race of giants, they rise not, are never resurrected, therefore you have inspected and will destroy them, yes, you destroy all their memory, complete genocide. You have increased the nation O YHWH, you have increased the nation, you are glorified, you have removed it far to all the ends of the earth. YHWH, in trouble have they visited you, they poured out a prayer when your correction was upon them. Like a woman with child, that draws near the time of her delivery and is in pain, and cries out in her pain, so have we been in your sight O YHWH. We have conceived, we have been pained. We have brought forth as it were wind, salvation we do not work in the earth, nor do the inhabitants of the world fall. Your dead shall come to life again, my dead body, they shall arise. Awake and sing, you dwellers in the dust, for the dew of herbs is your dew, and the land of Rephaim, race of giants, you cause to fall. Come my people, enter you into your chambers, and shut your doors about you, hide yourself as it were for a little moment, until the indignation is pasted over. For lo, YHWH comes out of his standing place to punish the inhabitants of the earth for their depravity, the earth also will disclose her blood, and will no more cover her slain. In that day YHWH, with his cruel, great and strong sword, will punish the dragon-piercing serpent, even the dragon that crooked serpent, and he will slay the dragon that is in the sea. In that day sing to her, a vineyard of red wine. I YHWH do guard it, I will water it every moment, unless any hurt it, I will guard it night and day. Fury is not in me, who would set the briars and thorns against me in battle? I would go through them, I would burn them together. Or let him take hold of my strength so that he may make peace with me, and he will make peace with me. He will cause them that come of Jacob to take root, Israel will blossom and bud, and fill the face of the world with fruit. Has he struck him, has he struck those that attacked him? Or is he killed according to the slaughter of them that are killed by him? In measure, in sending it out, you strive with it, he has taken away by his sharp wind, in the day of an east wind. Therefore by this is the depravity of Jacob covered, and this is all the fruit, to take away his sin, in his setting all the stones of an altar. As chalk stones beaten in pieces, they rise not, shrines and images. Still the fortified city will be desolate, and its habitation forsaken, and left like a wilderness, there will the calf feed, and there will he lie down, and consume the branches. When the harvest is withered they will be broken off, the women come and set them on fire, because it is a people of no understanding. Therefore he that made them will not have mercy on them, and he that formed them will show them no favor. Then it will come about in that day that YHWH will beat off from the channel of the river to the stream of Egypt, and you will be gathered one by one, O you children of Israel. And it will come to pass in that day that the great trumpet will be blown, and they will come which were ready to perish in the land of Assyria, and the outcasts in the land of Egypt, and will worship YHWH in the holy mount in Jerusalem. Woe to the crown of majesty, to the drunkards of Ephraim, whose glorious beauty is a fading flower that are on the head of the fat valleys of them that are overcome with wine. Look, Adonai, YHWH, has a mighty and strong one that is a downpour of hail and a destroying storm, as a flood of mighty waters overflowing, will cast down to the earth with the hand. The crown of majesty, the drunkards of Ephraim will be trampled underfoot, and the fading flower of the beauty of his glory that is on the head of the fat valley, has been as its first fruit before summer, that its beholder sees, while it is still in his hand he swallows it. In that day will YHWH of hosts be for a crown of glory, and for a diadem of beauty to the residue of his people, and for a spirit of judgment to him that sits in judgment, and for strength to them that turn the battle to the gate. But they also have erred through wine, and through strong drink are out of the way. The ruler and the speaker have erred through strong drink, they are swallowed up of wine, they are out of the way through strong drink, they err in vision, they stumble in judgment. Because all tables are full of vomit and filthiness, so that there is no place that is clean. Who will he teach knowledge? And whom will he make to understand doctrine? Those that are weaned from the milk and drawn from the breasts. Because precept must be upon precept, precept upon precept, line upon line, line upon line, here a little, and there a little, for with stammering lips and another tongue will he speak to this people. To who he said, This is the resting place where you may cause the weary to rest, and this is the place of rest, but still they would not hear. But the word of YHWH was to them precept upon precept, precept upon precept, line upon line, line upon line, here a little, and there a little, that they might go, and fall backward, and be broken, and snared, and taken. Therefore hear the word of YHWH, you scornful men that rule this people that are in Jerusalem. Because you have said, We have made a pledge with death, and with Sheol we have made a provision, an overflowing scourge, when it passes over will not meet us, though we have made a lie our refuge and in falsehood have been hidden. Therefore Adonai YHWH declares, Watch, I lay in Zion for a foundation, a stone, Urim Thummim, a testing stone, a precious cornerstone, a sure foundation, he that believes will not be in panic. Judgment I will also lay to the line and righteousness to the plummet, and the hail will sweep away the shelter of falsehood, and the waters will overflow the hiding place. And your pledge with death will be disabled, and your agreement with Sheol will not stand. When the overflowing scourge will pass through, then you will be trampled down by it. From the time that it goes out it will take you, for morning by morning will it pass over, by day and by night, and it will be a vexation only to understand the report. Because the bed is shorter than a man can stretch himself on, and the covering narrower than he can wrap himself in. Because YHWH will arise up as in Mount Perazim, he will be angry as in the valley of Gibeon, so that he may do his work, his foreign work, and bring to pass his labor, his foreign labor. Now, therefore, do not show yourselves scoffers, lest your fetters be bound fast, for, of a full end, and that a decreed one, have I heard from my Adonai Yahweh of hosts, upon all the land. Give ear and hear my voice, listen and hear my speech. Does the plowman plow all day to sow? Does he open and break the clods of his ground? Has he not, if he has made level its surface, and sown dill and scattered cumin, and planted wheat in rows, barley in its place, and rye in its own area? Because his Elohim does instruct him to discretion, and teaches him. For the black cumin are not threshed with a threshing instrument, neither is a cart wheel turned about upon the cumin, but the black cumin are beaten out with a staff, and the cumin with a rod. Grain is crushed, because he will not always be threshing it, nor break it with the wheel of his cart, nor crush it with his horsemen. This also comes from YHWH of hosts, that is wonderful in counsel and excellent in working. Woe to Ariel, Ariel, the city of the encampment of David. Add year to year, let festivals run their round. And I have sent distress to Ariel, and it has been lamentation and mourning, and it has been to me as Ariel. And I will camp against you all around, and will lay siege against you with a siege work, and I will raise ramparts against you. And you will be brought down, and will speak out of the ground, and your speech will be low out of the dust, and your voice will be, as of one that practices necromancy, out of the ground, and your speech will whisper out of the dust. Moreover the tumult of your foreigners will be like small dust, and the sound of the mighty ones will be as chaff that passes away, yes, it will be in an instant suddenly. You will be visited of YHWH of hosts with thunder, and earthquakes, and great noise, with storm and whirlwind and the flame of devouring fire. And the great number of all the nations that fight against Ariel, even all that fight against her and her bulwark, and that distress her, will be as a dream of a night vision. It will even be as when a hungry man dreams, and look, he eats, but he wakes up, and his body is empty. Or as when a thirsty man dreams, and look, he drinks, but he wakes up, and lo, he is faint and his body has an appetite. So will the great number of all the nations be, that fight against Mount Zion. Be delayed in wonder, cry out, and be smeared over. They are drunken, but not with wine. They stagger, but not with strong drink. Because YHWH has poured out upon you the spirit of deep sleep, and has closed your eyes, the speakers and your rulers, the Circe is covered. And the vision of all has become to you as the words of a book that is sealed, that men deliver to one that is educated, saying, Read this, I ask you, and he replies, I cannot, because it is sealed, and the book is delivered to him that is not educated, saying, Read this, I ask you, and he replies, I am not educated. Therefore Adonai, YHWH, said, Inasmuch as this people draw near to me with their mouth, and with their lips do honor me, but have removed their heart far from me, and their respect toward me is taught by the precept of men, therefore look, I will proceed to do a marvelous work among this people, even a marvelous work and a wonder, because the wisdom of their wise ones will perish, and the understanding of their men with degrees will be concealed. Woe to those going deep from YHWH to hide counsel, and whose works have been in darkness. And they say, Who sees us? And who knows us? Certainly your turning of things upside down will be esteemed as the potter's clay, for will the work say of him that made it, He made me not? Or will the thing framed say of him that framed it, He had no understanding? Is it not still a very little while, and Lebanon will be turned into a fruitful field, and the fruitful field will be esteemed as a forest? And in that day will the deaf hear the words of the book, and the eyes of the blind will see out of obscurity, and out of darkness. The poor also will increase their joy in YHWH, and the needy among men will rejoice in the Holy One of Israel. Because the terrible one is brought to nothing, and the scorner is consumed, and all that watch for wickedness are cut off. That snares a man as guilty for a case, and lays a lure for him that judges in the court, and turns aside the righteous for a place of chaos. Therefore YHWH declares, who ransomed Abraham, concerning the house of Jacob, Jacob will not now be ashamed, neither will his face now grow pale. But when he sees his children, the work of my hands, in the midst of him, they will consecrate my name, and consecrate the Holy One of Jacob, and will fear the Elohim of Israel. They also that erred in mind will come to understanding, and they that murmured will learn doctrine. Woe to the rebellious children, declares YHWH, that take counsel, but not of me, and that cover with a covering, but not of my mind, that they may add sin to sin, that walk to go down into Egypt, and have not inquired from my mouth, to strengthen themselves in the strength of Pharaoh, and to trust in the shadow of Egypt. Therefore will the strength of Pharaoh be your shame, and the trust in the shadow of Egypt your confusion. Because his rulers were at Zoan, and his ambassadors came to Hanes. They were all ashamed of a people that could not profit them, nor be a help nor profit, but a shame and also a reproach. The oracle of the animals of the south, into the land of trouble and anguish, from where comes the young and old lion, the viper and fiery flying serpent. They will carry their riches on the shoulders of young donkeys, and their treasures on the hump of camels, to a people that will not profit them. Because the Egyptians will help in vain, and to no purpose, therefore have I cried concerning this, their strength is to sit still. Now go, write it before them on a tablet, and note it in a scroll, that it may be for the future ages, that this is a rebellious people, lying children, children that will not hear the Torah of YHWH. That say to the seers, see not, and to the prophets, prophesy not to us right things, speak to us smooth things, prophesy illusions, get yourself out of the way, turn aside out of the path, cause the Holy One of Israel to cease from before us. Therefore the Holy One of Israel declares, because you despise this word, and trust in oppression and perverseness, and remain in it, therefore this depravity will be to you as a breach ready to fall, swelling out in a high wall, whose breaking comes suddenly in an instant. And he has broken it as the breaking of the potter's vessel, beaten down, he does not spare, nor is there, found in its beating down, a potsherd to take fire from the burning, and to draw out waters from a ditch. Because Adonai YHWH declares, the Holy One of Israel, in returning and rest will you be saved, in quietness and in confidence will be your strength, but you would have none of it. And you say, No, for on a horse we flee? Therefore you flee, and on the swift we ride. Therefore swift are your pursuers. Now 1,000 will flee at the rebuke of one, at the rebuke of 5 will you flee, until you are left as a beacon on the top of a mountain, and as an ensign on a hill. And therefore will YHWH wait, that he may be gracious to you, and therefore he will be exalted so that he may have mercy on you. Because YHWH is an Elohim of judgment, blessed are all they that wait for him. Because the people will live in Zion at Jerusalem, you will weep no more, he will be very gracious to you at the voice of your cry, when he will hear it, he will answer you. And though Adonai, YHWH, give you the bread of adversity and the water of affliction, yet your teachers will not be removed into a corner any more, but your eyes will see your teachers. And your ears will hear a word behind you saying, this is the way, walk you in it, when you turn to the right hand and when you turn to the left. You will defile also the covering of your graven images of silver, and the religious garments of your metal images of gold, you will cast them away as a menstruous cloth, you will say to it, away with you. Then will he give the rain of your seed so that you will sow the ground, and bread from the increase of the land, and it will be fat and plenteous, in that day will your cattle feed in large pastures. The oxen likewise and the young donkeys that ear the ground will eat clean provender that has been winnowed with the shovel and with the fan. And there will be upon every high mountain, and upon every high hill, rivers and streams of waters in the day of the great slaughter, when the skyscrapers fall. And the light of the moon will be as the light of the sun, and the light of the sun will be sevenfold, as the light of 7 days, in the day that YHWH binds up the wounds of his people, and heals the wounds of their infliction. Behold, the name of YHWH comes from far, burning with his anger and its burden is heavy, his lips are full of indignation and his tongue is a devouring supernatural fire. And his breath, as an overflowing stream, will reach to the middle of the neck, to sift the nations with the sieve of vanity, and there will be a bridle in the jaws of the people, causing them to err. You will have a song, as in the night when a consecrated festival is prepared, and gladness of heart, as when one goes with a pipe to come into the mountain of YHWH, to the rock, Urim Thummim, of Israel. Then YHWH will cause his majestic voice to be heard, and will show the lighting down of his forces, with the storming indignation of his nostrils flaring, and with a flame of devouring supernatural fire, with driving storm, thunderstorm and hailstones. Because through the voice of YHWH will the Assyrian be beaten down that struck with a rod. And every passage of the settled staff that YHWH causes to rest on him, has been with tambourine and with lyre, and in battles of shaking he has fought with it. For, arranged from former time is Tophet, even it for the king is prepared, he has made deep, he has made large, its pile is fire and much wood, the breath of YHWH, as a stream of brimstone, is burning in it. Woe to them that go down to Egypt for help, and stay on horses and trust in chariots, because they are many, and in horsemen, because they are very strong, but they look not to the Holy One of Israel, neither inquire of YHWH. And he also is wise, and brings on bad, and his words he has not turned aside, and he has risen against a house of wicked doers, and against the help of workers of wickedness. Now the Egyptians are men, and not Elohim, and their horses flesh, and not spirit. When YHWH will stretch out his hand, both he that helps will fall, and he that is helped will fall down, and they all will fail together. Because YHWH has said to me, as the lion and the young lion roaring on their prey, when a multitude of shepherds is called out against him, he will not be afraid of their voice, nor humble himself because of the sound of them. So will YHWH of hosts come down to fight for Mount Zion and for the hill. As birds flying, so does YHWH of hosts cover over Jerusalem, covering and delivering, passing over, and causing to escape. Turn back to him from whom the children of Israel have deepened apostasy. Because in that day everyone will cast away their idols of silver, and their idols of gold that your own hands have made to yourself for a sin. And the Assyrian will drop by a sword not of man, and a sword not of man will consume him. So he will not escape the sword, and his young men will be reduced to serfdom. Then he will pass over to his stronghold for fear, and his rulers will be afraid of the ensign, declares YHWH, whose fire is in Zion, and his furnace in Jerusalem. Behold, a king will reign in righteousness, and princes will rule in judgment. And each has been as a hiding place from wind, and as a secret hiding place from inundation, as rivulets of waters in a dry place, as a shadow of a heavy rock in a weary land. And the eyes of them that see will not be dim, and the ears of them that hear will listen. The heart also of the impetuous will understand knowledge, and the tongue of the stammering will be ready to speak plainly. A fool is no more called noble, and to a miser it is not said, rich, because the foolish person will speak profane actions, and his heart will work wickedness, to practice hypocrisy, and to utter error against YHWH, to make empty the lives of the hungry, and he will cause the drink of the thirsty to fail. The instruments also of the scoundrel are bad, he advises an evil plan to destroy the poor with false testimony, even when the poor speaks justly. And the noble counseled noble things, and he for noble things stands. Rise up, you women that are at ease, hear my voice, you careless daughters, give ear to my speech. Many days and years will you be troubled, you careless women, Because the vintage will fail, the harvest will not come. Tremble, you women that are at ease, be troubled, you careless ones, strip yourselves, make yourselves naked and gird sackcloth on your hips. They will lament for the breasts, for the pleasant fields, for the fruitful vine. Upon the land of my people will come up thorns and briars, yes, upon all the houses of joy in the joyous city. Because the palaces shall be forsaken, the multitude of the city will be left, the strongholds and towers will be for age-lasting dens, a joy of wild donkeys, a pasture of herds, until the Spirit is poured upon us from the high place, and the wilderness becomes a fruitful field, and the fruitful field is esteemed for a forest. Then judgment will reside in the wilderness, and righteousness remains in the fruitful field. Then the work of righteousness will be peace, and the effect of righteousness quietness and security for the ages. And my people will live in a peaceable habitation, and in secure dwelling places, and in quiet resting places, when it will hail, coming down on the forest, and the city will be utterly laid low. Blessed are you that sow beside all waters, that send out from there the feet of the ox and the donkey. Woe to you that spoil, and you were not spoiled, and deal treacherously, and they dealt not treacherously with you. When you will cease to destroy, you will be devastated, and when you will make an end to deal treacherously, they will deal treacherously with you. O YHWH, be gracious to us, we have waited for you, be you their arm every sunrise, our deliverance also in the time of trouble. At the sound of the roaring the people fled, at the lifting up of yourself the nations were scattered. And your plunder will be gathered like the gathering of the locust, as the running to and fro of locusts will he run upon them. YHWH is exalted, because he lives in the high place, he has filled Zion with judgment and righteousness. And wisdom and knowledge will be the stability of your times, and riches of salvation, the respect of YHWH is his treasury. Look, their heroes will cry outwardly, the ambassadors of peace will weep bitterly. The highways lie deserted, the wayfaring man is removed, he has broken the covenant, he has despised the cities, he regards no mortal person. The earth mourns and languishes, Lebanon is ashamed and cut down, Sharon is like a wilderness, and Bashan and Carmel shake off their fruits. Now will I arise, declares YHWH, now will I be exalted, now will I lift up myself. You will conceive chaff, you will bring forth stubble, your breath, as fire, will devour you. And the people will be as the burning of lime, as thorns cut up will they be burned in the fire. Hear, you that are far off, what I have done, and you that are near, acknowledge my might. The sinners in Zion are afraid, fearfulness has surprised the hypocrites. Who among us will live with the devouring supernatural fire? Who among us will live with age-lasting burnings? He that walks righteously, and speaks with equity, he that despises the gain of oppressions, that shakes his hands from the holding of bribes, that stops his ears from hearing of blood, and shuts his eyes from seeing bad, he will reside in the high place, his refuge will be the stronghold of rocks, food will be given to him, his waters will be sure. Your eyes will see the king in his beauty, they will see the land that is very far off. Your heart will meditate terror. Where is the scribe? Where is the receiver? Where is he that declared from the pulpit? You will not see a fierce people, a people of an unfathomable speech than you can perceive, of a deriding tongue that you cannot understand. Look on Zion, the city of the appointed place, your eyes will see Jerusalem a quiet habitation, a tabernacle that will not be taken down, not one of its pegs will ever be removed, neither will any of its cords be pulled away. But there the glorious YHWH will be to us a place of broad rivers and streams, no ships with oars will go into it, neither will great tanker ships pass by there. Because YHWH is our judge, YHWH is our lawgiver, YHWH is our king, he will save us. Your tackling is loosed, they could not well strengthen their mast, they could not spread the sail, then is the prey of a great plunder divided, the lame take the booty. And the inhabitant will not say, I am sick, the people that live there will be forgiven their depravity. Come near you nations, to hear, and listen you people, let the earth hear and all that are in it, the world, and all things that come forth from it. Because the anger of YHWH is upon all nations, and his rage upon all their armies, he has devoted them to destruction, he has delivered them to the slaughter. Their fatally wounded will also be cast out, and their stench will come up out of their carcasses, and the mountains will be dissolved in their blood. And all the stars of the cosmos will be decaying, and the universe will be rolled together as a scroll, and all their star systems will fade away, as the leaf falls off from the vine, and as a falling fig from the fig tree. Because my sword will be bathed in the cosmos, see, it will come down upon Edom, and upon the people of my curse, to judgment. The sword of YHWH is filled with blood, it is made fat with fatness, and with the blood of lambs and he-goats, with the fat of the kidneys of rams, for YHWH has a sacrifice in Basra, and a great slaughter in the land of Edom. And the buffalo will come down with them, and the steers with the bulls, and their land will be soaked with blood, and their dust made fat with fatness. Because it is the day of Yhwh's vengeance, and the year of retribution for the controversy of Zion. And the stream bed will be turned into pitch, and the dust into brimstone, and the land will become burning pitch. It will not be quenched night or day, the smoke will ascend for the ages, from generation to generation it will lie waste, none will pass through it for the ages of ages. But the pelican and the hedgehog will possess it, the owl also and the raven will live in it, and he will stretch out upon it the measuring line of wasteland, and the stones of void. They will call the nobles to the kingdom, but none will be there, and all her princes will be ceasing. And thorns will come up in her palaces, nettles and brambles in the fortresses, and it will be a habitation of dragons, and a court for owls. The wild animals of the desert will also meet with the wild animals of the island, and the satyr will cry to his fellow, the screech owl also will rest there, and find for herself a place of rest. There will the great owl make her nest, lay, and hatch, and gather. Under her shadow, there will the vultures also be gathered, every one with her mate. Inquire out of the Bible of Yhwh, and read, not one of these will fail, none will want her mate, for my mouth it has commanded, and his spirit it has gathered them. And he has cast the lot for them, and his hand has divided it to them by line, they will possess it for the ages, from generation to generation will they reside there. The wilderness and the desert will rejoice for them, and the steppe will rejoice and blossom as the rose. It will blossom abundantly, and rejoice even with joy and singing, the glory of Lebanon will be given to it, the excellency of Carmel and Sharon, they will see the glory of Yhwh, and the ornament of our Elohim. Strengthen you the slack hands, and secure the feeble knees. Say to them that are of a fearful heart, be strong, fear not, see, your Elohim will come with vengeance, even Elohim with a benefit, he will come and liberate you. Then the eyes of the blind will be opened, and the ears of the deaf will be unstopped. Then will the lame person leap as a hart, and the tongue of the dumb sing, because in the wilderness will waters break out and streams in the desert. And the parched ground will become a pool, and the thirsty land springs of water, in the habitation of serpents, where each lay, will be grass with reeds and rushes. And a highway will be there and a road, and it will be called the road of holiness, the unclean will not pass over it, but it will be for those, the wayfaring person, though fools will not go or stray on it. No lion will be there, nor any ravenous beast will go up, they will not be found there, but the ransomed will walk there only. And the ransomed of Yhwh will return, and come to Zion with songs and age-lasting joy upon their heads, they will obtain joy and gladness, and sorrow and sighing will flee away. Now it came to pass in the 14th year of King Hezekiah, that Sennacherib king of Assyria came up against all the fortified cities of Judah, and captured them. And the king of Assyria sent Rabshakeh from Lachish to Jerusalem to King Hezekiah with a great army. And he stood by the conduit of the upper pool in the highway of the fuller's field. Then came out to him Eliakim, Elohim set up, Hilkiah's son that was over the house, and Shebna the scribe, and Joah, Asaph's son, the recorder. Then Rabshakeh said to them, Say ye now to Hezekiah, This is what the great king, the king of Assyria says, What confidence is this with which you trust? I have said, only, a word of the lips. Counsel and might is for battle. Now, on whom have you trusted, that you have rebelled against me? Lo, you trust in the staff of this broken reed, on Egypt, where if a man leans, it will go into his hand and pierce it, so is Pharaoh king of Egypt to all that trust in him. But if you say to me, We trust in Yhwh Elohim, is it not he, whose worship places and whose altars Hezekiah has removed, and said to Judah and to Jerusalem, You will worship before this altar? Now therefore give pledges I ask you, to my master the king of Assyria, and I will give you 2,000 horses, if you are able on your behalf to set riders on them. How then will you turn away the face of one captain of the least of my master's slaves, and put your trust on Egypt for chariots and for horsemen? And now, without Yhwh have I come up against this land to destroy it. Yhwh said to me, Go up against this land, and make it waste. Then replied Eliakim and Shebna and Joah to Rabshakeh, Speak, I ask you, to your servants in the Syrian language, because we understand it, and do not speak to us in the Hebrew language, in the ears of the people that are on the wall. But Rabshakeh replied, Has my master sent me to your master and to you to speak these words? Has he not sent me to the men that sit on the wall, that they may eat their own excrement, and drink their own piss with you? Then Rabshakeh stood, and cried with a loud voice in the Hebrew language and said, Hear you the words of the great king, the king of Assyria. The king declares, Let not Hezekiah deceive you, because he will not be able to deliver you. Neither let Hezekiah make you trust in Yhwh saying, Yhwh will certainly deliver us, this city will not be delivered into the hand of the king of Assyria. Listen not to Hezekiah, because the king of Assyria says, make an agreement with me by a treaty of peace, and come out to me. And eat every one from his vine, and every one of his fig tree, and drink every one the waters of his own cistern, until I come and take you away to a land like your own land, a land of corn and wine, a land of bread and vineyards. Beware unless Hezekiah persuades you saying, YHWH will deliver us. Has any of the Elohim of the nations delivered his land out of the hand of the king of Assyria? Where are the Elohim of Hamath and Arphad? Where are the Elohim of Sepharvaim? And have they delivered Samaria out of my hand? Who are they among all the Elohim of these lands, that have delivered their land out of my hand, that YHWH should deliver Jerusalem out of my hand? But they held their peace, and answered him not a word, because the king's commandment was to answer him not. Then came Eliakim, the son of Hilkiah, that was over the household, and Shebna the scribe, and Joah, the son of Asaph, the recorder, to Hezekiah with their clothes torn, and told him the words of Rabshakeh. And it came to pass when King Hezekiah heard it, that he tore his clothes and covered himself with sackcloth, and went into the temple of YHWH. And he sent Eliakim, who was over the household, and Shebna the scribe, and the elders of the priests covered with sackcloth, to Isaiah the prophet the son of Amoz. And they said to him, This is what Hezekiah says, This day is a day of trouble and of rebuke, and of blasphemy, because the children are come to birth, and there is not strength to gender. It may be YHWH Elohim will hear the words of Rabshakeh, who the king of Assyria his master has sent to reproach the living Elohim, and will judge the words that YHWH Elohim has heard. Therefore lift up your prayer for the remnant that is left. So the slaves of King Hezekiah came to Isaiah. Then Isaiah replied to them, This is what you will tell your master. YHWH declares, Be not afraid of the words that you have heard, with which the servants of the king of Assyria have blasphemed me. Look, I will send a blast upon him, and he will hear a rumor and return to his own land, and I will cause him to fall by the sword in his own land. So Rabshakeh returned, and found the king of Assyria warring against Libnah, because he had heard that he was departed from Lachish. And he heard it reported concerning Tirhakah king of Ethiopia, He has come out to make war with you. And when he heard it, he sent messengers to Hezekiah saying, This is what you will speak to Hezekiah king of Judah saying, Let not your Elohim, in whom you trust deceive you saying, Jerusalem will not be given into the hand of the king of Assyria. Look, you have heard what the kings of Assyria have done to all lands by destroying them utterly, and will you be delivered? Have the Elohim of the nations delivered them that my fathers have destroyed, as goes on, Haran, Rezeph, and the children of Eden that were in Telassar? Where is the king of Hamath and the king of Arphad, and the king of the city of Sepharvaim, Hena, and Iva? Then Hezekiah received the letter from the hand of the messengers and read it, and Hezekiah went up to the temple of YHWH, and spread it before YHWH. And Hezekiah prayed to YHWH saying, O YHWH of hosts, Elohim of Israel, that live between the cherubim, you are Elohim, even you alone of all the kingdoms of the earth, you have made the cosmos and earth. Incline your ear, O YHWH, and hear, open your eyes, O YHWH, and see, and hear all the words of Sennacherib that he has sent to reproach the living Elohim. Of a truth YHWH, the kings of Assyria have laid waste all the nations and their countries, and have cast their Elohim into the fire, because they were not Elohim, but the work of men's hands, wood and stone, therefore they have destroyed them. Now therefore, O YHWH Elohim, save us from his hand so that all the kingdoms of the earth may know that you are YHWH, even you only. Then Isaiah the son of Amoz sent to Hezekiah saying, This is what YHWH Elohim of Israel replies, Whereas you have prayed to me against Sennacherib king of Assyria, this is the word that YHWH has spoken concerning him. The virgin, the daughter of Zion, has despised you and laughed you to scorn, the daughter of Jerusalem has shaken her head at you. Who have you reproached and blasphemed? And against whom have you exalted your voice and lifted up your eyes on high? Even against the Holy One of Israel. By your servants have you reproached Adonai, YHWH, and have said, By the multitude of my chariots am I come up to the height of the mountains, to the sides of Lebanon. And I will cut down the tall cedars and the choice cypress trees, and I will enter into the height of his territory, and the forest of his Carmel, garden land. I have excavated and drunk water, and with the sole of my feet have I dried up all the rivers of the fenced places. Have you not heard from afar? It I did, from days of old that I formed it. Now, I have brought it in, and it is to make desolate, ruinous heaps those fenced cities. Therefore their inhabitants were of small power, they were dismayed and confounded, they were as the grass of the field, and as the green herb, as the grass on the housetops, and as corn blasted before it has grown up. But I know your abode and your going out, and your coming in and your rage against me. Because your rage against me and your arrogance has come up into my ears, therefore will I put my hook in your nose and my bridle in your lips, and I will turn you back by the road by which you came. And this will be a sign to you. You will eat this year such as grows of itself, and the second year what springs of the same, and in the third year you will sow and reap, and plant vineyards and eat its fruit. And the remnant that is escaped of the house of Judah will again take root downward, and bear fruit upward. Because out of Jerusalem will go forth a remnant, and they that escape out of Mount Zion, the zeal of YHWH of hosts will do this. Therefore this is what YHWH declares concerning the king of Assyria: he will not come into this city, nor shoot an arrow there, nor come before it with shields, nor cast a bank against it. By the way that he came, by the same will he return and will not come into this city, declares YHWH. Because I will defend this city to save it for my own sake, and for my slave David's sake. Then the angel of YHWH went out, and struck in the camp of the Assyrians 185,000 men, and when they arose early in the morning, lo, they were all dead corpses. So Sennacherib king of Assyria left, and went and returned and lived at Nineveh. And it came to pass, as he was worshipping in the house of Nisroch his Elohim, that Adramelech and Sharezer his sons killed him with the sword, and they escaped into the land of Armenia, and Esarhaddon his son reigned in his place. In those days was Hezekiah deathly ill. And Isaiah the prophet the son of Amoz came to him and said to him, This is what YHWH says, Set your house in order because you will die, and not live. Then Hezekiah turned his face toward the sides of the altar, and prayed to YHWH, and said, Remember now, O YHWH, I beseech you, how I have walked before you in truth and with a whole heart, and have done what is good in your sight. And Hezekiah wept intensely. Then came the word of YHWH to Isaiah saying, Go and say to Hezekiah, This is what YHWH says, The Elohim of David your forefather, I have heard your prayer, I have seen your tears, see, I will add to your days 15 years. And I will deliver you in this city out of the hand of the king of Assyria, and I will defend this city. And this will be a sign to you from YHWH, that YHWH will do this thing that he has spoken. Look, I will cause the shadow on the sundial that has gone down with the sun on the sundial of Ahaz, to go back 10 degrees. So the sun's shadow went back 10 degrees on the sundial on which it had gone down. The writing of Hezekiah king of Judah, when he had been sick and was recovered from his illness. I said, In the prime of my life I will go to the gates of Sheol, I am deprived of the remainder of my years. I said, No more will I see YHWH, even YHWH in the land of the living, I will look upon mankind no more in the inhabited world. My sojourning has departed, and been removed from me as a shepherd's tent, I have drawn together, as a weaver my life, by weakness it cuts me off, from day to night you do end me. I have set him till morning as a lion, so does he break all my bones, from day to night you do end me. Like a crane or a swallow so did I chatter, I did mourn as a dove, my eyes fail with looking upward, O YHWH, oppression is on me, be my surety. What will I say? He has both spoken to me and himself has done it, I will go softly all my years in the bitterness of my life. O Adonai, YHWH, by these things men live and in all these things is the life of my breath, so will you restore and resurrect me to life. Look, for peace I had great bitterness, but you have in love to my life delivered it from the pit of nothing, because you have cast all my sins behind your back. Because the Sheol cannot praise you, death cannot celebrate you, they that go down into the pit cannot hope for your truth. The living, he will praise you, as I do this day, the father to the children will make known your truth. YHWH was ready to save me, therefore we will sing my songs to the stringed instruments all the days of our life in the temple of YHWH. Because Isaiah had said, Let them take a lump of figs and lay it for a rub on the boil, and he will recover. Hezekiah also had said, What is the sign that I will go up to the temple of YHWH? At that time Merodach-Baladan, the son of Baladan, king of Babylon, sent letters and a present to Hezekiah, because he had heard that he had been sick, and was recovered. Then Hezekiah was glad of them, and showed them the house of his precious things, the silver and the gold, and the spices, and the precious ointment, and all the house of his armor. And all that were found in his treasury, there was nothing in his house, nor in all his dominion, that Hezekiah did not show them. Then Isaiah the prophet came to King Hezekiah and asked him, What did you say to these men? And from where did they come to you from? And Hezekiah replied, They are come from a far country to me, even from Babylon. Then he asked, What have they seen in your house? And Hezekiah answered, All that is in my house have they seen, there is nothing among my treasury that I have not shown them. Then Isaiah said to Hezekiah, Hear the word of YHWH of hosts, note, the days come that all that is in your house, and what your forefathers have laid up in store until this day, will be carried to Babylon, nothing will be left, declares YHWH. And of your sons that will issue from you, that you will gender, will they take away, and they will be eunuchs in the palace of the king of Babylon. Then Hezekiah replied to Isaiah, "Good is the word of YHWH that you have spoken." He said further, "That is because there will be peace and truth in my days. Comfort you, my people, declares your Elohim. Speak you comfortably to Jerusalem and cry to her, that her warfare is accomplished, that her punishment is determined, because she has received of YHWH's hand double for all her sins. The voice of him that cries in the uninhabited land, prepare you the path of YHWH, make straight in the desert a highway for our Elohim. Every steep valley will be swept away, and every mountain and hill will become lowered, and the hills will be made level country, and the mountain chains a level plain. And the glory of YHWH will be revealed, and all flesh will see it together, because the mouth of YHWH has spoken." The voice said, "Cry." And he said, "What will I cry? All flesh is grass, and all its goodness is as the flower of the field. The grass withers, the flower fades, because the breath of YHWH blows on it. Certainly the people are grass. The grass withers, the flower fades, but the word of our Elohim will stand for the ages. O Zion, that brings good news, get yourself up into the high mountain. O Jerusalem that brings good news, lift up your voice with strength, lift it up, be not afraid. Say to the cities of Judah, watch your Elohim. Look, Adonai YHWH will come with a strong hand and his arm will rule for him. See, his reward is with him and his work before him. He will feed his flock like a shepherd, he will gather the lambs with his arm, and carry them in his bosom, and will gently lead those that are with young. Who has measured the waters in the hollow of his hand, and measured out the cosmos with the span, approximately 9 inches, and calculate the dust of the earth in a measure, and weighed the mountains in scales, and the hills in a balance? Who has directed the spirit of YHWH, or being his counselor has taught him? With whom took he counsel, and who instructed him and taught him in the path of judgment, and taught him knowledge, and showed to him the way of understanding? See, the nations are as a drop of a bucket, and are counted as the small dust of the balance. Look, he takes up the isles as a very little thing. And Lebanon is not sufficient to burn, nor its animals sufficient for a whole burnt offering. All nations before him are as nothing, and they are counted to him less than nothing, and places of chaos. To whom then will you liken Elohim? Or what likeness will you compare to him? The workman casts a graven image, and the goldsmith beats it out with gold, and refines silver chains. He that is so impoverished that he has no offering chooses a tree that will not rot. He finds himself a skillful craftsman to prepare a graven image that will not be dislodged. Have you not known? Have you not heard? Has it not been told you from the beginning? Have you not understood from the foundations of the earth? It is he that sits upon the vault of the cosmic expanse of the earth, and its inhabitants are as grasshoppers, that stretches out the universe as a veil, and spreads them out as a tent to live in, that brings the judicious to nothing. He makes the judges of the earth as emptiness. Yes, they will not be planted. Yes, they will not be sown. Yes, their stock will not take root in the earth, and he will also blow upon them, and they will wither, and the whirlwind will take them away as stubble. To whom then will you liken me, or will I be equal? Declares the Holy One. Lift up your eyes on the elevated place, and see who has created these things, that brings out their stars by number. He calls them all by names by the greatness of his might, because that he is strong in power, not one fails. Why say you, O Jacob, and speak, O Israel, my way is hidden from YHWH, and my judgment is passed over from my Elohim? Have you not known? Have you not heard, that the age-lasting Elohim, YHWH, the creator of the whole earth, faints not, neither is weary? There is no searching of his understanding. He gives power to the faint, and to them that have no might he increases strength. Even the youths will faint and be weary, and the young men will stagger, but they that wait on YHWH will renew their strength. They will mount up with wings as eagles, they will run and not be weary, and they will walk and not faint. Keep silence before me, O islands, and let the people renew their strength. Let them come near, and let them speak. Let us come near together to judgment. Who raised up the righteous from the east, called him to his feet, gave the nations before him and made him rule over kings? He gave them as the dust to his sword, and as driven stubble to his bow. He pursued them, and passed safely, even by the way that he had not gone with his feet. Who has performed and done this, calling the generations from the beginning? I, YHWH, the first, Alpha, and with the last, Omega, I am he. The isles saw it and feared, the ends of the earth were afraid, drew near and came. They helped everyone his neighbor, and everyone said to his brother, be of good courage. And strengthened does an artisan the refiner, a smoother with a hammer, him who is beating on an anvil saying, for joining it is good, and he strengthens it with nails, it is not moved. But you Israel, are my slave, Jacob who I have chosen, the seed of Abraham my friend. You who I have taken from the ends of the earth, and called you from the chief man and said to you, you are my slave, I have chosen you and not cast you away. Do not fear because I am with you, be not dismayed because I am your Elohim, I will strengthen you, yes, I will help you, yes, I will uphold you with the right hand of my righteousness. Look, all they that were incensed against you will be ashamed and confounded, they will be as nothing, and they that strive with you will perish. You seek them and find them not, the men who debate with you, they are as nothing, yes, as nothing, the men who war with you. Because I YHWH alone will hold your right hand, saying to you, fear not, I will help you. Fear not, you worm Jacob and you men of Israel, I will help you, declares YHWH, and your kinsman Redeemer, the Holy One of Israel. Look, I will make you a new sharp threshing instrument having teeth, you will thresh the mountains and beat them small, and will make the hills as chaff. You will fan them and the wind will carry them away, and the whirlwind will scatter them, and you will rejoice in YHWH, and will glory in the Holy One of Israel. When the poor and needy seek water, and there is none, and their tongue fails for thirst, I YHWH will hear them, I the Elohim of Israel will not forsake them. I will open rivers in appointed places, and fountains in the middle of the valleys, I will make the uninhabited land a pool of water, and the dry land springs of water. I will plant in the wilderness the cedar, the acacia tree, and the myrtle, and the olive tree, I will set in the desert the cypress tree, and the pine, and the evergreen tree together, that they may see and know, consider and understand together, that the hand of YHWH has done this, and the Holy One of Israel has created it. Produce your cause, declares YHWH, produce your strong reasons, says the King of Jacob. Let them bring them forth, and show us what will happen, let them show the former things, what they are, so that we may consider them, and know the latter end of them, or declare us the future things to come. Show the things that are to come hereafter, so that we may know that you are Elohim, yes, do good, or do bad, so that we may be dismayed, and see it together. Lo, you are nothing, and your work of worthlessness, an abomination, it fixes on you. I have raised up one from the north, and he will come, from the rising of the sun will he call upon my name, and he will come upon rulers as upon mortar, and as the potter tramples clay. Who has declared from the beginning, that we may know? And formerly that we may say, he is righteous? Yes, there is none that expounds, yes, there is none that declares, yes, there is none that hears your words. The first will say to Zion, look, watch them, and I will give to Jerusalem one that brings good news. For I observed, and there was no one, even among them, and there was no counselor, that when I asked of them could answer a word. Behold, they are all vanity, their works are nothing, their cast images are wind and confusion. Observe my slave, whom I uphold, my elect in whom my heart delights, I have put my spirit upon him, he will bring forth judgment to the Gentiles. He will not cry, nor lift up, nor cause his voice to be heard in the street. A bruised reed will he not break, and the smoking flax will he not quench, he will bring forth judgment unto truth. He will not fail nor be discouraged until he has set judgment in the earth, and the isles will wait for his Torah. This is what Elohim YHWH declares, he that created the cosmos and stretched them out, he that spread out the earth and what grows out of it, he that gives breath to the people on it, and breath to them that walk therein, I YHWH have called you in righteousness, and will hold your hand and will guard you, and give you for a pledge of the people, for a light of the Gentiles, to open the blind eyes, to bring out the prisoners from the prison, and them that sit in darkness out of the prison house. I am YHWH, that is my name, and my glory will I not give to another, neither my praise to graven images. Look, the former things are come to pass, and new things do I declare, before they spring forth I tell you of them. Sing to YHWH a new song, and his praise from the end of the earth, you that go down to the sea, and all that are there, the isles and its inhabitants. Let the wilderness and the cities lift up their voice, the villages that Kedar does inhabit, let the inhabitants of the rock sing, let them shout from the top of the mountains. Let them give glory to YHWH and declare his praise in the islands. YHWH will go out as a mighty man, he will stir up jealousy like a man of war, he will cry, yes roar, he will prevail against his enemies. I have kept silent from of old, I keep silent, I refrain myself, as a travailing woman I cry out, I desolate and swallow up together. I will make waste mountains and hills, and dry up all their herbs, and I will make the rivers islands, and I will dry up the pools. And I will bring the blind by a way that they knew not, I will lead them in paths that they have not known, I will make darkness light before them, and crooked things straight. These things will I do to them and not forsake them. They will be turned back, they will be greatly ashamed that trust in graven images, that say to the cast images, you are our Elohim. Hear you deaf, and look you blind so that you may see. Who is blind, but my slave? Or deaf as my messenger that I sent? Who is blind as he that is at peace, and blind as YHWH's slave? Seeing many things, but you observe not, opening the ears, but he hears not. YHWH is well pleased for his righteousness' sake, he will magnify the Torah, and make it honorable. But this is a people robbed and spoiled, they are all of them snared in holes, and they are hidden in prison houses, they are for a prey, and none delivers, for a spoil and none says, Restore. Who among you will give ear to this? Who will listen and hear for the times to come? Who gave Jacob for a plunder and Israel to the robbers? Did not YHWH, he against whom we have sinned? Because they would not walk in his ways, neither were they obedient to his law. Therefore he has poured on him the fury of his anger, and the strength of battle, and it has set him on fire all around, still he knew not and it burned him, still he laid it not to heart. But now this is what YHWH that created you declares, O Jacob, and he that formed you, O Israel, fear not because I have ransomed you, I have called you by your name, you are mine. When you pass through the danger I will be with you, and through the rivers they will not overflow you, when you walk through the fire, you will not be burnt, neither will the flame kindle upon you. Because I am YHWH alone, the Holy One of Israel, your Savior, I gave Egypt for your ransom, Ethiopia and Seba for you. Since you were precious in my sight, you have been honorable, and I have loved you, therefore will I give men for you and people for your life. Fear not because I am with you, from the east will I bring in your seed, and gather you from the west, I will say to the north, Give up, and to the south, Keep not back, bring my sons from far, and my daughters from the ends of the earth, even every one that is called by my name, because I have created them for my glory, I have formed them, yes, I have made them. Bring out the blind people that have eyes, and the deaf that have ears. Let all the nations be gathered together, and let the people be assembled, who among them can declare this, and show us former things? Let them bring out their witnesses, that they may be made righteous, or let them hear and say, It is truth. You are my witnesses, declares YHWH, and my slave whom I have chosen, that you may know and believe me, and understand that I am he. Before me there was no Elohim formed, neither will there be after me. Even I am YHWH, and beside me there is no Savior. I have declared and saved, and proclaimed, when there was no foreign Elohim among you, therefore you are my witnesses, declares YHWH, that I am Elohim. Yes, before the day was, I am he, and there is none that can deliver out of my hand, I will work, and who will turn it back? This is what YHWH declares, your kinsman Redeemer, the Holy One of Israel. For your sake I have sent to Babylon, and have brought down all their nobles and the Chaldeans, whose cry is in the ships. I am YHWH, your Holy One, the Creator of Israel, your King. This is what YHWH says, that makes a road in the sea and a path in the fierce waters, that brings out the chariot and horse, the army and the power, they will lie down together, they will not rise, they are extinct, they are quenched as a wick. Remember not the former things, neither consider the things of old. Look, I will do a new thing, now it will spring forth, will you not know it? I will even make a road in the wilderness, and rivers in the desert. The animal of the field will honor me, the serpent and the owls, because I give waters in the uninhabited land, and rivers in the desert, to give drink to my people, my chosen. This people I have formed for myself, they will show forth my praise. But you have not called upon me, O Jacob, but you have been weary of me, O Israel. You have not brought me the small cattle of your whole burnt offerings, neither have you honored me with your sacrifices. I have not caused you to serve with an offering, nor wearied you with frankincense. You have bought me no sweet cane with money, neither have you filled me with the fat of your sacrifices, but you have made me to serve with your sins, you have wearied me with your depravity. Even I, and he that blots out your transgressions for my own sake, and will not remember your sins. Put me in remembrance, let us plead together, declare you, that you may be made righteous. Your first ancestor has sinned, and your teachers have transgressed against me. Therefore I have desecrated the rabbis of the holy place, and have given Jacob to the curse, and Israel to reproaches. Yet now hear, O Jacob my slave, and Israel who I have chosen, this is what YHWH declares that fashioned you, and formed you from the womb, which will help you. Fear not, O Jacob my slave, and you, Yeshurun, upright one, whom I have chosen. Because I will pour water on him that is thirsty, and floods on the dry ground, I will pour my breath upon your seed, and my blessing on your offspring. And they will spring up as among the grass, as willows by the water courses. One will say, I am YHWH, and another will call himself by the name of Jacob, and another will subscribe with his hand to YHWH, and surname himself by the name of Israel. This is what YHWH the King of Israel declares, and his kinsman Redeemer, YHWH of hosts, I am the first, Alpha, and I am the last, Omega, and beside me there is no Elohim. And who is I, will call and declare it, and arrange it for me, since my placing the people of antiquity, and things that are coming and those that do come, declaring to them? Fear not, neither be afraid, have not I told you from that time and have declared it? You are even my witnesses. Is there an Elohim beside me? Yes, there is no Elohim, I know not any. They that fashion a graven image are all of them vanity, and their delectable things will not profit, and they are their own witnesses, they see not, nor know, that they may be ashamed. Who has formed an Elohim, or cast a graven image that is profitable for nothing? Look, all his fellows will be ashamed, and the workmen, they are of men, let them all be gathered together, let them stand up, yet they will fear and they will be ashamed together. The smith with the tongs both works in the coals, and fashions it with hammers, and works it with the strength of his arms, yes, he is hungry and his strength fails, he drinks no water and is faint. The carpenter stretches out his rule, he marks it out with a line, he fits it with planes, and he marks it out with the compass, and makes it after the figure of a man, according to the beauty of a man, that it may remain in the house. He cuts himself down cedars, and takes the cypress and the oak that he strengthens for himself among the trees of the forest, he plants an ash, and the rain does nourish it. Then will it be for a man to burn, because he will take and warm himself, yes, he kindles it and bakes bread, yes, he fashions an Elohim and worships it, he fashions it a graven image and falls down to it. He burns part of it in the fire, with part of it he eats meat, he roast, and is satisfied, yes, he warms himself and says, Aha, I am warm, I have gazed at the fire. And the residue he fashions into an Elohim, even his graven image, he falls down to it, and worships it, and prays to it saying, Deliver me because you are my Elohim. They have not known nor understood, because he has shut their eyes so that they cannot see, and their hearts so that they cannot understand. And none considers in his heart, neither is there knowledge nor understanding to say, I have burnt part of it in the fire, yes, also I have baked bread upon its coals. I have roasted meat and eaten it, and will I fashion the residue as an abomination? Will I fall down to the stock of a tree? He feeds on ashes, a deceived heart has turned him aside so that he cannot deliver his life, nor say, Is there not a lie in my right hand? Remember these, O Jacob and Israel, because you are my slave, I have formed you, you are my slave, O Israel, you will not be forgotten of me. I have blotted out by the cloud mass your transgressions, and through the cloud mass those punishments for sins, return to me because I have ransomed you. Sing, O you cosmos, because YHWH has done it, shout, you lower parts of the earth, break out into singing you mountains, O forest, and every tree, because YHWH has ransomed Jacob, and glorified himself in Israel. This is what YHWH your kinsman redeemer declares, and he that formed you from the womb, I am YHWH that fashions all things, that stretches out the cosmos alone, that spreads abroad the earth by myself, that frustrates the omens of the liars, and makes false prophets mad, that turns wise men backward, and makes their knowledge foolish, that confirms the word of his slave, and performs the counsel of his messengers, that declares to Jerusalem, You will be inhabited, and to the cities of Judah, You will be rebuilt, and I will raise up the ruined place, that says to the ocean deep, Be dry, and I will dry up your underground streams, that says of Cyrus, He is my shepherd, and will perform all my pleasure, even saying to Jerusalem, You will be rebuilt, and to the temple, your foundation will be laid. This is what YHWH says to his anointed, to Cyrus, whose right hand I have strengthened, to subdue nations before him, and I will loose the loins of kings, to open before him the two gates, and the gates will not be shut. I will go before you and make the crooked places straight, I will break in pieces the gates of brass, and cut apart the bars of iron, and I will give you the treasures of darkness, and hidden riches of secret places, that you may know that I, YHWH that call you by your name, am the Elohim of Israel. For Jacob my slave's sake, and Israel my elect, I have even called you by your name, I have surnamed you, though you have not known me. I am YHWH, and there is none else, there are no Elohim besides me, I girded you, though you have not known me, that they may know from the rising of the sun, and from the west, that there is none besides me. I am YHWH, and there is none else. I form the light and create darkness, I make peace and create evil, I YHWH do all these things. Drop down you cosmos from above, and let the skies pour down righteousness, let the earth open, and let them bring forth salvation, and let righteousness spring up together, I YHWH have created it. Woe to him that strives with his maker. Let the potsherd strive with the potsherds of the earth. Will the clay say to him, that fashioned it, What are you making? Or your work, he has no hands? Woe to him that says to his dad, What do you gender? Or to the woman, What have you engendered? This is what YHWH declares, the Holy One of Israel, and his Maker, ask me of things to come concerning my sons, and concerning the work of my hands command you me. I have made the earth and created man upon it, even my hands, have stretched out the universe, and all their stars have I commanded. I have raised him up in righteousness, and I will direct all his ways. He will build my city, and he will let go my captives, not for price or reward, declares YHWH of hosts. This is what YHWH says: the labor of Egypt and merchandise of Ethiopia and of the Sabaeans, men of stature, will come over to you, and they will be yours. They will come after you. In chains they will come over, and they will fall down to you. They will make supplication to you, saying, certainly Elohim is in you, and there is none else, there is no Elohim. Of a truth you are an Elohim that hides yourself, O Elohim of Israel, the Savior. They will be ashamed, and also confounded, all of them, they will go to confusion together that are creators of idols. But Israel will be saved in YHWH with an age-lasting salvation. You will not be ashamed nor confounded unto the ages of futurity. Because this is what YHWH declares that created the universe, Elohim himself that formed the earth and created it. He has established it, he created it not in confusion, he formed it to be inhabited. I am YHWH, and there is none else. Not in secret have I spoken, in a dark place of the earth, I have not said to the seed of Jacob, in vain seek you me. I am YHWH, speaking righteousness, declaring uprightness. Assemble yourselves and come, draw near together, you that are escaped of the nations. They have no knowledge that set up the wood of their graven image, and pray to an Elohim that cannot save. Tell you and bring them near, yes, let them take counsel, together, who have declared this from ancient time? Who has told it from that time? Have not I YHWH? And there is no Elohim besides me, a just Elohim and a Savior, there is none besides me. Look to me and be saved, all the ends of the earth, because I am Elohim, and there is none else. I have adjured by myself, the word is gone out of my mouth in righteousness, and will not return, that to me every knee will bow, every tongue will adjure. Certainly one will say, in YHWH I have righteousness and strength, even to him will humanity come, and all that are incensed against him will be ashamed. In YHWH will all the seed of Israel be made righteous, and will glory. Bel bows down, Nebo stoops, their idols were on the beasts, and on the cattle, your carriages were heavy laden, they are a burden to the weary beast. They stoop, they bow down together, they could not deliver the burden, themselves are gone into captivity. Listen to me, O house of Jacob, and all the remnant of the house of Israel that are born by me from the belly that are carried from the womb, and even to your old age I am he, and even to gray hairs will I carry you. I have made, and I will bear, I will carry and will deliver you. To whom will you liken me, and make me equal, and compare me that we may be like? They lavish gold out of the bag and weigh silver in the balance, and hire a goldsmith, and he fashions it into an Elohim. They fall down, yes, they worship. They bear him upon the shoulder, they carry him and set him in its place, and it stands. From its place will he not remove. Yes, one will cry to him, yet he cannot answer nor save him out of his trouble. Remember this, and show yourselves men, bring it again to mind, O you transgressors. Remember the former things of old, because I am Elohim, and there is none else. I am Elohim, and there is none like me, declaring the end from the beginning, and from ancient times the things that are not yet done, saying, my counsel will stand and I will do all my pleasure, calling a bird of prey from the east, the man that executes my counsel from a far country. Yes, I have spoken it, I will also bring it to pass, I have purposed it, I will also do it. Listen to me, you stout-hearted, that are far from righteousness, I bring near my righteousness, it will not be far off, and my salvation will not delay, and I will place salvation in Zion for Israel my glory. Come down, and sit in the dust, O virgin daughter of Babylon, sit on the ground, there is no throne, O daughter of the Chaldeans, because you will no more be called tender and delicate. Take the millstones and grind meal, uncover your locks, make bare the leg, uncover the thigh, pass over the rivers. Your nakedness will be uncovered, yes, your shame will be seen, I will take vengeance and I will not meet you as a man. As for our kinsman Redeemer, YHWH of hosts is his name, the Holy One of Israel. Sit silent, and get yourself into darkness, O daughter of the Chaldeans, because you will no more be called the Lady of Kingdoms. I was angry with my people, I have polluted my inheritance, and given them into your hand, you did show them no mercy, upon the elder have you very heavily laid your yoke. And you said, I will be a lady for the ages, so that you did not lay these things to your heart, neither did remember the latter end of it. Therefore hear this now, you that are given to pleasures, that lives carelessly, that say in your heart, I am, and none else besides me, I will not sit as a widow, neither will I know the loss of children. But these two things will come to you in a moment, in one day, the loss of children and widowhood, they will come upon you in their completeness for the multitude of your sorceries, and for the great abundance of your enchantments. Because you have trusted in your wickedness, you have said, none sees me. Your wisdom and your knowledge, it has perverted you, and you have said in your heart, I am, and none else besides me. Therefore, will bad come upon you, you will not know from where it rises, and mischief will fall upon you, you will not be able to put it off, and desolation will come upon you suddenly that you will not know. Stand now with your enchantments, and with the multitude of your sorceries, with which you have labored from your youth, if so be you will be able to profit, if so be you may prevail. You are wearied in the multitude of your counsels. Let now the astrologers, the stargazers, the monthly prognosticators, stand up, and save you from these things that will come upon you. Look, they will be as stubble, the fire will burn them, they will not deliver themselves from the power of the flame, there will not be a coal to warm at, nor fire to sit around. This will they be to you with whom you have labored, even your merchants, from your youth, they will wander every one to his quarter, none will save you. Hear this, O house of Jacob that are called by the name of Israel, and are come out of the waters of Judah that adjure by the name of YHWH, and make mention of the Elohim of Israel, but not in truth, nor in righteousness. Because they call themselves of the holy city, and lean themselves upon the Elohim of Israel, YHWH of hosts is his name. I have declared the former things from the beginning, and they went out of my mouth, and I showed them, I did them suddenly and they came to pass. Because I knew that you are obstinate, and your neck is an iron sinew and your brow bronze, I have even from the beginning declared it to you, before it came to pass I showed it to you, unless you should say, my idol has done them and my graven image, and my cast image has commanded them. You have heard, see all this, and will you not declare it? I have caused you to hear new things from this time, and hidden things that you knew not. Now they have been produced in and not from that time, yes, before the day, and you have not heard them unless you say, Lo, I have known them. Yes, you heard not, yes, you knew not, yes, from that time that your ear was not opened, because I knew that you would deal very treacherously, and were called a transgressor from the womb. For my name's sake I will defer my anger, and for my praise I will refrain for you so that I do not cut you off. Look, I have refined you, but not with silver, I have chosen you in the furnace of affliction. For my own sake, even for my own sake will I do it, because how should my name be polluted? And I will not give my glory to another. Listen to me, O Jacob and Israel, my called, I am he, I am the first, Alpha, I also am the last, Omega. My hand also has laid the foundation of the earth, and my right hand has spanned the universe, when I call to them, they stand up together. All you, assemble yourselves and hear, which among them has declared these things? YHWH has loved him, he will do his pleasure on Babylon and his arm will be on the Chaldeans. I, even I have spoken, yes, I have called him, I have brought him, and he will make his way prosperous. Come near to me, hear this, I have not spoken in secret from the beginning, from the time that it was, there am I, and now Adonai YHWH, and his Spirit has sent me. This is what YHWH declares, your kinsman Redeemer, the Holy One of Israel. I am YHWH alone that teaches you to profit, that leads you by the way that you should go. Oh, that you had listened to my commandments. Then had your peace been as a river, and your righteousness as the waves of the sea, your seed also had been as the sand, and the offspring of your bowels like the gravel, his name should not have been cut off nor destroyed from before me. Go you out from Babylon, flee from the Chaldeans, with a voice of singing declare you, tell this, utter it even to the end of the earth, say, YHWH has ransomed his slave Jacob. And they did not thirst when he led them through the uninhabited places, he caused the waters to flow out of the rock for them, he split the rock also, and the waters gushed out. There is no peace, says YHWH, to the wicked. Listen, O isles, to me, and pay attention, you people from afar. YHWH has called me from the womb, from the bowels of my mother has he made mention of my name. And he has made my mouth like a sharp sword, in the shadow of his hand has he hidden me, and made me a polished arrow, in his quiver has he hidden me, and said to me, You are my slave, O Israel, in whom I will be glorified. Then I said, I have labored in vain, I have spent my strength for nothing, and in vain, but surely my judgment is with YHWH, and my work with my Elohim. And now, declares YHWH that formed me from the womb to be his slave, to bring Jacob again to him, though Israel is not gathered, still I will be glorious in the eyes of YHWH, and my Elohim will be my strength. And he said, It is commanded that you should be my slave to raise up the tribes of Jacob, and to restore the guards of Israel. I will also give you for a light to the Gentiles, that you may be my deliverance unto the ends of the earth. This is what YHWH declares, the Redeemer of Israel, his Holy One, to the despised in life, to the abominated of a nation, to the slave of rulers. Kings see and have risen, princes, and worship, for the sake of YHWH who is faithful, the Holy of Israel, and he chooses you. This is what YHWH declares: in an acceptable time I have responded to you, and in a day of deliverance I have helped you. And I will guard you, and employ you for a covenant pledge of the people, to become fixed in the earth, to cause to inherit the deserted heritages, that you may say to the prisoners, Go out. To them that are in darkness, reveal yourselves. They will feed in the ways, and their pastures will be in all barren places. They will not hunger or thirst, neither will the heat or sun stricken them, because he that has mercy on them will lead them, even by the springs of water will he guide them. And I will make all my mountains a way, and my highways will be exalted. Look, these will come from far, and lo, these from the north and from the west, and these from the land of Sinim. Sing, O cosmos, and be joyful, O earth, and break out into singing, O mountains, because YHWH has comforted his people, and will have mercy on his poor and needy. But Zion said, YHWH has forsaken me, and my Adonai has forgotten me. Can a woman forget her nursing infant so that she should not have compassion on the son of her womb? Yes, they may forget, but I will not forget you. Look, I have marked you on the palms of my hands, your walls are continually before me. Your children will make haste, your destroyers and they that made you waste will go out of you. Lift up your eyes all around and look, all these gather themselves together and come to you. As I live, declares YHWH, you will certainly clothe yourself with them all, as with an ornament, and bind them on you, as a bride does, because your waste and your desolate places, and the land of your destruction, will even now be too distressed by reason of its inhabitants, and they that swallowed you up will be from a far distance. The children that you will have, after you have lost the other, will say again in your ears, This place is too oppressed for me, give space to me that I may live. Then you will say in your heart, Who has engendered me these, seeing I have lost my children and am barren? I am an exile and outcast now. And who has brought up these? See, I was left alone. These, where have they come from? This is what Adonai YHWH declares, Look, I will lift up my hand to the Gentiles, and set up my standard to the people, and they will bring your sons in their arms, and your daughters will be carried upon their shoulders. And kings will be your nursing fathers, and their queens your nursing mothers. They will bow down to you with their face toward the ground, and lick up the dust of your feet, and you will know that I am YHWH, because they will not be ashamed that wait for me. Will the prey be taken from the mighty, or the lawful captive delivered? But this is what YHWH declares, even the captives of the mighty will be removed, and the prey of the terrible will be delivered, because I will contend with him that contends with you, and I will save your children. And I will feed them that oppress you with their own flesh, and they will be drunken with their own blood, as with sweet wine, and all flesh will know that I YHWH am your Savior and your kinsman Redeemer, the mighty one of Jacob. This is what YHWH declares, Where is the bill of your mother's divorce, whom I have sent away? Or which of my creditors is it to whom I have sold you? Look, for your depravities you have sold yourselves, and for your transgressions has your mother sent away. Therefore, when I came, was there no man? When I called, was there none to answer? Is my hand shortened at all so that it cannot ransom? Or have I no power to deliver? Look, at my rebuke I dry up the sea, I make the rivers a wilderness, their fish stink, because there is no water, and they die for thirst. I clothe the cosmos with blackness, and I make sackcloth their covering. Adonai YHWH has given me the tongue of the educated, that I should know how to speak a word in season to him that is weary. He wakens morning by morning, he wakens my ear to hear as the educated. Adonai YHWH has opened my ear, and I was not rebellious, neither turned back. I gave my back to the subjugators, and my cheeks to them that plucked off the hair, I hid not my face from shame and spitting. Because Adonai YHWH will help me, therefore I will not be confounded, therefore I have set my face like a flint, and I know that I will not be ashamed. He is near that justifies me, who will contend with me. Let us stand together, who is my adversary? Let him come near to me. Look, Adonai YHWH will help me, who is he that will condemn me? Lo, they all will wax old as a garment, the moth will eat them up. Who is among you that fears YHWH, that obeys the voice of his slave that walks in darkness and has no light? Let him trust in the name of YHWH, and trust upon his alone. Look, all you that kindle a fire, that compass yourselves about with sparks, walk in the light of your fire and in the sparks that you have kindled. This you will have of my hand, you will lie down in sorrow. Listen to me, you that follow after righteousness, you that seek YHWH, look to the rock, Urim Thummim, where you are engraved on, and to the archaeological dig of the pit where you are excavated from. Look to Abraham your ancestor and to Sarah that gendered you, for I called him alone, and blessed him and increased him. Because YHWH will comfort Zion, he will comfort all her waste places, and he will make her wilderness as Eden, and her desert as the garden of YHWH, joy and gladness will be found there, thanksgiving and the voice of melody. Listen to me, my people, and give ear to me, O my nation, for the Torah will proceed from me, and I will make my judgment to rest for a light of the people. My righteousness is near, my deliverance has gone out, and my arms will judge the people. The isles will wait upon me, and on my arm will they trust. Lift up your eyes to the cosmos, and look upon the land below, because the universe will vanish away like smoke, and the earth will wax old like a garment. And they that live there will die in a similar way, but my salvation will be for the ages, and my righteousness will not be abolished. Listen to me, you that know righteousness, the people in whose heart is my Torah. Do not fear the reproach of men, neither be afraid of their reviling words. Because the moth will eat them up like a garment, and the worm will eat them like wool, but my righteousness will be for the ages, and my salvation from generation to generation. Awake, awake, put on strength, O arm of YHWH, awake, as in ancient days, in the generations of old. Are you not it that has cut Rahab and wounded the serpent? Are you not it that has dried the sea, the waters of the great deep, that has made the depths of the sea a way for the ransom to pass over? Therefore the ransomed of YHWH will return and come with singing to Zion, and age-lasting joy will be upon their head. They will obtain gladness and joy, and sorrow and mourning will flee away. I, even I am he that comforts you. Who are you, that you should be afraid of a man that will die, and of the son of man that will be made as grass, and forget YHWH your maker, that had stretched out the cosmos, and laid the foundations of the earth, and have feared continually every day because of the fury of the oppressor, as if he were ready to destroy? And where is the fury of the oppressor? The captive exile is anxious that he may be set free, and that he should not die in the pit, nor that his food should fail. But I am YHWH alone that divided the sea, whose waves roared. YHWH of hosts is his name. And I have put my words in your mouth, and I have covered you in the shadow of my hand, so that I may plant the cosmos, and lay the foundations of the earth, and say to Zion, you are my people. Awake, awake, stand up, O Jerusalem that has drunk at the hand of YHWH the cup of his fury. You have drunken the dregs of the cup of trembling, and drained them out. There is none to guide her among all the sons who she has engendered, neither is there any that takes her by the hand of all the sons that she has brought up. These two things are come to you, who will be sorry for you? Desolation and destruction, and the famine and the sword. By who will I comfort you? Your sons have fainted, they lie at the head of all the streets, as a wild bull in a net. They are full of the fury of YHWH, the rebuke of your Elohim. Therefore hear this now, you afflicted and drunken, but not with wine. This is what YHWH declares, the YHWH, and Elohim that pleads the cause of his people. Look, I have taken out of your hand the cup of trembling, even the dregs of the cup of my fury. You will no more drink it again, and I have put it into the hand of those afflicting you, who have said to your lives, bow down and we pass over, and you make as the earth your body, and as the street to those passing by. Awake, awake, put on your strength, O Zion, put on your beautiful garments, O Jerusalem, the holy city, because from here on there will no more come into you the uncircumcised and the unclean. Shake yourself from the dust, get up and sit down, O Jerusalem, loose yourself from the bands of your neck, O captive daughter of Zion. Because this is what YHWH declares, you have sold yourselves for nothing, and you will be ransomed without money. Because this is what Adonai YHWH declares, my people went down formerly into Egypt to reside there, and the Assyrian oppressed them without cause. Now therefore, what have I here, says YHWH, that my people are taken away for nothing? They that rule over them make them to wail, says YHWH, and my name continually every day is spurned. Therefore my people will know my name, therefore they will know in that day that I am he that does speak. See, it is I. How beautiful upon the mountains are the feet of him that brings good news, that publishes peace, that brings good news of good, that publishes salvation, that says to Zion, your Elohim reigns. Your watchmen will lift up the voice, with the voice together will they sing, because they will see eye to eye, when YHWH will restore Zion. Break out into joy, sing together, you waste places of Jerusalem, because YHWH has comforted his people, he has ransomed Jerusalem. YHWH has made bare his holy arm in the eyes of all the nations, and all the ends of the earth will see the salvation of our Elohim. Depart you, go you out from there, touch no unclean thing, go out from the midst of her, be clean, that bear the vessels of YHWH. Because you will not go out with haste, nor go by flight, for YHWH will go before you and the Elohim of Israel will be your rearguard. Look, my slave will deal prudently, he will be exalted and extolled, and be exceedingly exalted. As many were appalled at you, his visage was so marred more than any man, and his form more than the sons of men, so will he sprinkle many nations, the kings will shut their mouths at him, For what had not been told them will they see, and what they had not heard will they consider. Who has believed our report? And to whom is the arm of YHWH revealed? Because he will grow up before him as a tender plant, and as a root out of a dry ground. He has no form nor comeliness, and when we will see him, there is no beauty that we should desire him. He is despised and rejected of men, a man of sorrows and acquainted with grief, and we hid as it were our faces from him. He was despised and we esteemed him not. Certainly he has borne our grief, and carried our sorrows, still we did esteem him stricken, struck of Elohim, and afflicted. But he was wounded for our transgressions, he was bruised for our depravities, the chastening of our welfare was upon him, and with his stripes we are healed. All we like sheep have gone astray, we have turned everyone to his own way, and YHWH has laid on him the depravity of us all. He was oppressed and he was afflicted, yet he opened not his mouth. He is brought as a lamb to the slaughter, and as a sheep before her shearers is dumb, so he opened not his mouth. He was taken from prison and from judgment, and who will declare his generation? Because he was cut off out of the land of the living, for the transgression of my people was he wounded. And he made his grave with the wicked and with the rich in his death, because he had done no violence, neither was any deceit in his mouth. Still it pleased YHWH to bruise him, he has put him to grief. When you will make his life an offering for guilt, he will see his seed, he will prolong his days, and the pleasure of YHWH will prosper in his hand. He will see of the travail of his life, and will be satisfied. By his knowledge will my righteous slave make many righteous, because he will bear their depravities. Therefore I will divide him a portion with the great, and he will divide the plunder with the strong, because he has poured out his life unto death, and he was numbered with the transgressors, and he carried the sin of many and made intercession for the transgressors. Sing, O barren, you that did not gender, break out into singing and cry aloud, you that did not labor with child, because more are the children of the desolate than the children of the married woman, declares YHWH. Enlarge the place of your tent, and let them stretch out the curtains of your habitations, spare not, lengthen your cords and strengthen your tent pegs, because you will break out on the right hand and on the left, and your seed will inherit the Gentiles, and make the desolate cities to be inhabited. Fear not, because you will not be ashamed, neither be you confounded, for you will not be put to shame, for you will forget the shame of your youth and will not remember the reproach of your widowhood any more. Because your Maker is your husband, YHWH of hosts is his name, and your kinsman Redeemer the Holy One of Israel, the Elohim of the whole earth will he be called. For, like a wife forsaken and grieved in spirit has YHWH called you, even the wife of youthful days in that you were rejected, says your Elohim. Because in a small moment have I forsaken you, but with great mercies will I gather you. In a little anger I hid my face from you for a moment, but with age-lasting kindness I will have mercy on you, declares YHWH your kinsman Redeemer. For this is as the waters of Noah to me, because as I have adjured that the waters of Noah should no more go over the earth, so have I adjured that I would not be angry with you, nor rebuke you. Because the mountains will depart and the hills will be removed, but my kindness will not leave from you, neither will the covenant of my peace be removed, declares YHWH that has mercy on you. O you afflicted, tossed with tempest and not comforted, see, I will lay your stones with antimony, stibium, and lay your foundations with sapphires. And I will make your windows of agates, and your gates of marble, and all your borders of pleasant stones. And all your children will be taught of YHWH, and great will be the peace of your children. In righteousness will you be established, you will be far from oppression, because you will not fear, and from terror, because it will not come near you. Look, they will certainly gather together, but not by me. Whoever will gather together against you will fall for your sake. Look, I have created the smith that blows the coals in the fire, and that brings forth an instrument for his work, and I have created the corrupter to destroy. No weapon that is formed against you will prosper, and every tongue that will rise against you in judgment you will condemn. This is the heritage of the slaves of YHWH, and their righteousness is from me, declares YHWH. Ho, everyone that thirsts, come you to the waters, and he that has no money, come you, buy and eat, yes, come, buy wine and milk without money and without price. Why do you weigh money for what is not bread? And your labor for what is not for satiety? Listen diligently to me and eat good, and your life will delight itself in fatness. Incline your ear and come to me, hear, and your life will be restored, and I will make an age-lasting covenant with you, even the confirmed mercies of David. See, I have given him for a witness to the people, a leader and commander to the people. Look, you will call a nation that you know not, and nations that knew you not will run to you because of YHWH alone, and for the Holy One of Israel, because he has glorified you. Seek you YHWH while he may be found, call you upon him while he is near, let the wicked forsake his way, and the unrighteous man his thoughts, and let him return to YHWH, and he will have mercy on him, and into our Elohim, because he will abundantly pardon. Because my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, declares YHWH. Because as the skies are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts. Because as the rain comes down and the snow from the sky, and goes not back again, but waters the earth, and makes it sprout and bud so that it may give seed to the sower, and food to the eater, so will my word be that goes out of my mouth. It will not return to me void, but it will accomplish what I please, and it will prosper in the thing whereby I sent it. Because you will go out with joy, and be led out with peace, the mountains and the hills will break out before you into singing, and all the trees of the field will clap their hands. Instead of the thorn will come up the fir tree, and instead of the briar will come up the myrtle tree, and it will be to YHWH for a name, for an age-lasting sign that will not be cut off. This is what YHWH declares: observe you judgment and do justice, because my salvation is near to come, and my righteousness to be revealed. Blessed is the man that does this, and the son of man that lays hold on it, that observes the Sabbath from desecrating it, and keeps his hand from doing any bad. Neither let the son of the foreigner, that has joined himself to YHWH, speak, saying, YHWH has utterly separated me from his people. Neither let the eunuch say, look, I am a dry tree. For this is what YHWH says to the eunuchs that observe my Sabbaths, and choose the things that please me, and take hold of my covenant. Even to them will I give in my house and within my walls a place and a name better than of sons and of daughters. I will give them an age-lasting name, that will not be cut off. Also the sons of the foreigner, that join themselves to YHWH, to serve him and to love the name of YHWH, to be his slaves, everyone that observes the Sabbath from desecrating it, and is resolute in my covenant, even them will I bring to my holy mountain, and make them joyful in my house of prayer. Their whole burnt offerings and their sacrifices will be accepted upon my altar, because my temple will be called an house of prayer for all people. Adonai YHWH that gathers the outcasts of Israel declares, yet will I gather others to him, beside those that are gathered to him. All you animals of the field, come to devour, yes, all you animals in the forest. His watchmen are blind, they are all ignorant, they are all dumb dogs, they cannot bark, sleeping, lying down, loving to slumber. Yes, they are greedy dogs that can never have enough, and they are shepherds that cannot understand. They all look to their own way, every one for his gain, from his quarter. Come ye, they say, I will fetch wine, and we will fill ourselves with strong drink, and tomorrow will be as this day and much more abundant. The righteous perish, and no man lays it to heart, and merciful people are taken away, none considering that the righteous is removed from the bad to come. He will enter into peace, they will rest in their beds, each one walking in his uprightness. But draw near, you sons of the soothsayer, the seed of the adulterer and the prostitute. Against whom do you sport yourselves? Against who make yourself a wide mouth, and draw out the tongue? Are you not children of transgression, a seed of falsehood, inflaming yourselves with Elohim, under every green tree, slaying the children in the valleys under the cliffs of the rocks? Among the smooth stones of the stream is your portion. They are your lot, even to them have you poured a drink offering, you have offered a meat offering. Should I receive comfort in these? Upon a lofty and high mountain have you set your bed, even where you went up to offer sacrifice. Behind the doors also in the posts have you set up your memorial, because you have uncovered, exposed nakedness, yourself to another than me, and are gone up, you have enlarged your bed, and made yourself an alliance with them, you loved their bed where you saw it. And you went to the king with ointment, and did increase your perfumes, and did send your messengers far off, and did debase yourself even unto Sheol. In the greatness of your way you have labored, you have not said, it is desperate. The life of your hand you have found, therefore you have not been sick. And of whom have you been afraid, and fear, that you lie, and me have not remembered? You have not laid it to your heart, am not I silent, even from of old? And me you fear not? I will declare your righteousness, and your works, because they will not profit you. When you cry, let your companies deliver you, but the wind will carry them all away, vanity will take them, but he that puts his trust in me will possess the land, and will inherit my holy mountain, and will say, cast you up, prepare the way, take up the stumbling block out of the way of my people. Since this is what declares the high and lofty one that inhabits the future, whose name is holy. I live in the high and holy place, with him also that is of a contrite and humble spirit, to revive the spirit of the humble, and to revive the brokenhearted ones. Because I will not contend for the ages, neither will I be always angry, for the spirit should fail before me in the lives that I have fashioned. Because for the depravity of his unjust gain was I angry, and struck him, I hid myself and was angry, and he went on backsliding in the way of his heart. I have seen his ways, and will heal him, I will lead him also, and restore comforts to him and to his mourners. I create the fruit of the lips, Peace, peace to him that is far off, and to him that is near, declares YHWH, and I will heal him. But the wicked are like the troubled sea, when it cannot rest, whose waters cast up mire and dirt. There is no peace, declares my Elohim, to the wicked. Cry aloud, spare not, lift up your voice like a trumpet, and show my people their rebellion, and the house of Jacob their sins. Still they seek me daily and delight to know my ways, as a nation that did righteousness, and forsook not the ordinance of their Elohim. They ask of me the ordinances of justice, they take delight in approaching to Elohim. Therefore have we fasted, they say, and you see not? Therefore we have afflicted our lives, and you take no knowledge of it? Look, in the day of your fast you find pleasure and exact all your labors. See, you fast for strife and debate, and to strike with the fist of wickedness. You will not fast as you do this day, to make your voice to be heard on high. Is it such a fast that I have chosen? A day for a man to afflict his life? Is it to bow down his head as a bulrush, and to spread sackcloth and ashes under him? Will you call this a fast, and an acceptable day to YHWH? Is not this the fast that I have chosen, to loose the bands of wickedness, to undo the heavy burdens, and to let the oppressed go free, and that you break every yoke? Is it not to deal your food to the hungry, and that you bring the poor that are cast out to your house? When you see the naked, that you cover him, and that you hide not yourself from your own flesh? Then will your light break out as the morning, and your health will spring forth speedily, and your righteousness will go before you. The glory of YHWH will be your rear guard. Then you call and YHWH answers, you cry, and he replies, behold me. If you turn aside from your midst the yoke, the sending out from the finger, and the speaking of vanity, and if you draw out your life to the hungry and satisfy the afflicted people, then will your light rise in obscurity, and your darkness will be as the noonday, and YHWH will guide you continually, and satisfy your life in drought. And your bones he invigorates, and you will be like a watered garden, and like a spring of water, whose waters fail not. And they that will be of you will rebuild the old waste places, you will raise up the foundations of many generations, and you will be called the repairer of the breach, the restorer of paths to live in. If you turn away your foot from the Sabbath, from doing your pleasure on my holy day, and call the Sabbath a delight, the sacred of YHWH, honorable, and will honor him, not doing your own ways, nor finding your own pleasure, nor speaking your own words, then you will delight yourself in YHWH, and I will cause you to ride upon the high places of the earth, and feed you with the heritage of Jacob your ancestor, because the mouth of YHWH has spoken it. Look, YHWH's hand is not shortened that it cannot save, neither his ear heavy, that it cannot hear, but your depravities have separated between you and your Elohim, and your sins have hid his face from you so that he will not hear. Because your hands are defiled with blood and your fingers with depravity, your lips have spoken lies, your tongue has muttered injustice. None calls for justice, nor any pleads for truth, they trust in vanity and speak lies, they conceive mischief and produce trouble. They hatch vipers' eggs, and weave the spider's web, he that eats of their eggs dies, and what is crushed breaks out into a viper. Their webs will not become garments, neither will they cover themselves with their works are works of trouble, and the act of violence is in their hands. Their feet run to bad, and they hurry to shed innocent blood, their thoughts are thoughts of trouble, wasting and destruction are in their paths. The way of peace they know not, and there is no judgment in their goings, they have made themselves crooked paths, whoever goes there will not know peace. Therefore is judgment far from us, neither does justice overtake us, we wait for light but behold obscurity, for brightness, but we walk in darkness. We grope for the wall like the blind, and we grope as if we had no eyes, we stumble at noonday as in the night, we are in desolate places as dead men. We roar all like bears, and utter like doves, we look for judgment, but there is none, for deliverance, but it is far off from us. Because our transgressions are multiplied before you, and our sins testify against us, because our rebellions are with us, and as for our depravity, we know them, in transgressing and lying against YHWH, and departing away from our Elohim, speaking oppression and revolt, conceiving and uttering from the heart words of falsehood. And judgment is turned away backward, and justice stands afar off, because truth is fallen in the street, and equity cannot enter. Yes, truth fails, and he that departs from bad makes himself a spoil, and YHWH saw it, and it displeased him that there was no judgment. And he saw that there was no person, and wondered that there was no intercessor, therefore his arm brought deliverance to him, and his righteousness, it sustained him, because he put on righteousness as a breastplate and a helmet of salvation on his head, and he put on the garments of vengeance for clothing, and was clad with zeal as a robe. According to their deeds, accordingly he will repay, fury to his adversaries, recompense to his enemies, to the islands he will repay recompenses. So will they fear the name of YHWH from the west, and his glory from the rising of the sun. When the enemy will come in like a flood, the spirit of YHWH will lift up a standard against him. And the kinsman redeemer will come to Zion, and to them that turn from transgression in Jacob, declares YHWH. As for me, this is my covenant with them, declares YHWH. My spirit that is on you and my words that I have put in your mouth will not depart out of your mouth nor out of the mouth of your seed, nor out of the mouth of your seed's seed, declares YHWH, from now and for the ages. Arise, shine, because your light is come, and the glory of YHWH is risen upon you. Look, darkness will cover the earth, and gross darkness the people, but YHWH will arise on you, and his glory will be seen on you. And the Gentiles will come to your light, and kings to the brightness of your rising. Lift up your eyes all around and see, they all gather themselves together, they come to you, your sons will come from far, and your daughters will be nursed at your side. Then you will see and flow together, and your heart will fear, and be enlarged, because the abundance of the sea will be converted to you, the forces of the Gentiles will come to you. The multitude of camels will cover you, the young camel of Midian and Ephah, all they from Sheba will come, they will bring gold and incense, and they will publish the praises of YHWH. All the flocks of Kedar will be gathered together to you, the rams of Nebaioth will minister to you, they will come up with acceptance on my altar, and I will glorify the temple of my glory. Who are these that fly as a cloud, and as the doves to their windows? Certainly the isles will wait for me, and the ships of Tarshish first, to bring your sons from far, their silver and their gold with them to the name of YHWH alone, and to the Holy One of Israel, because he has glorified you. And the sons of foreigners will build up your walls, and their kings will minister to you, for in my anger I struck you, but in my favor I have had mercy on you. Therefore your gates will be open continually, they will not be shut day nor night, so that people may bring to you the wealth of the Gentiles, and that their kings may be driven away. Because the nation and kingdom that will not serve you will perish, yes, those nations will be made desolate. The glory of Lebanon will come to you, the fir tree, pine tree, and the evergreen together, to beautify the standing place of my sacred place, and I will make the standing place of my feet glorious. The sons also of them that afflicted you will come bowing down to you, and all they that despised you will bow themselves down at the soles of your feet, and they will call you, the city of YHWH, the Zion of the Holy One of Israel. Although you have been forsaken and hated, so that no person went through you, I will make you an age-lasting excellency, a joy of many generations. You will also suck the milk of the Gentiles, and will suckle the breast of kings, and you will know that I YHWH am your Savior and your kinsman Redeemer, the Mighty One of Jacob. For bronze I will bring gold, and for iron I will bring silver, and for wood bronze, and for stones iron, I will also make your officers peace, and your taskmasters righteousness. Violence will no more be heard in your land, wasting nor destruction within your borders, but you will call your walls salvation, and your gates praise. The sun will be no more your light by day, neither for brightness will the moon give light to you, but YHWH will be to you an age-lasting light, and your Elohim your glory. Your sun will no more go down, neither will your moon withdraw itself, because YHWH will be your age-lasting light, and the days of your mourning will be ended. Your people also will be all righteous, they will inherit the land for the ages, the branch of my planting, the work of my hands, that I may be glorified. A little one will become 1,000, and a small one a strong nation, YHWH will quicken it in his time. The spirit of Adonai YHWH is upon me, because YHWH has anointed me to preach good news to the meek, he has sent me to bind up the brokenhearted, to proclaim liberty to the captives, and the opening of the prison to them that are imprisoned, to proclaim the acceptable year of YHWH, and the day of vengeance of our Elohim, to comfort all that mourn, to appoint to them that mourn in Zion, to give to them beauty for ashes, the oil of joy for mourning, the mantle of praise for the spirit of heaviness, that they might be called pillars of righteousness, the planting place of YHWH, that he might be glorified. And they will build the old wastes, they will raise up the former desolations, and they will repair the waste cities, the desolations of many generations. Then foreigners will stand and feed your flocks, and the sons of the aliens will be your plowmen and your vineyard attendants. But you will be named the priests of YHWH, men will call you the servants of our Elohim, you will eat the riches of the Gentiles, and in their glory will you boast yourselves. For your shame you will have double, and for disgrace they will rejoice in their portion, therefore in their land they will possess double, age-lasting joy will be to them. Because I YHWH love judgment, I hate robbery for whole burnt offering, and I will direct their work in truth, and I will make an age-lasting covenant with them. And their seed will be known among the Gentiles, and their offspring among the people, all that see them will acknowledge them, that they are the seed that YHWH has blessed. I will greatly rejoice in YHWH, my life will be joyful in my Elohim, because he has clothed me with the garments of salvation, he has covered me with the robe of righteousness, as a bridegroom decks himself with ornaments, and as a bride adorns herself with her jewels. Because as the earth brings forth her bud, and as the garden causes the things that are sown in it to sprout up, so Adonai Yhwh will cause righteousness and praise to sprout up before all the nations. For Zion's sake I am not silent, and for Jerusalem's sake I do not rest, till her righteousness go out as brightness, and her salvation as a torch that burns. And nations have seen your righteousness, and all kings your honor, and he is giving to you a new name, that the mouth of Yhwh doth define. You will also be a crown of glory in the hand of Yhwh, and a royal diadem in the hand of your Elohim. You will no more be termed forsaken, neither will your land any more be termed desolate, but you will be called Hephzibah, and your land Beulah, because Yhwh delights in you, and your land will be ruled over. Because as a young man marries a virgin, so will your sons marry you, and as the bridegroom rejoices over the bride, so will your Elohim rejoice over you. I have set watchmen on your walls, O Jerusalem, that will never hold their peace day nor night, you that make mention of Yhwh, keep not silence, and give him no rest, until he establish and until he makes Jerusalem a praise in the earth. Yhwh has adjured by his right hand, and by the arm of his strength, certainly I will no more give your grain to be food for your enemies, and the sons of the foreigner will not drink your wine for which you have labored, but they that have gathered it will eat it, and praise Yhwh, and they that have brought it together will drink it in the courts of my holiness. Go through the gates, prepare you the way of the people, cast up the highway, gather out the stones, lift up a standard for the people. Look, Yhwh has proclaimed to the end of the world, say ye to the daughter of Zion, lo, your salvation comes, see, his reward is with him and his work before him. And they will call them, the holy nation, the ransomed of Yhwh, and you will be called, sought after, a city not forsaken. Who is this that comes from Edom, with dyed garments from Bozrah? This that is glorious in his apparel, traveling in the greatness of his strength? I that speak in righteousness, mighty to save. Therefore are you red in your apparel, and your garments like him that treads in the wine fat. I have trodden the winepress alone, and of the people there was none with me, because I will tread them in my anger, and trample them in my fury, and their blood will be sprinkled upon my garments, and I will stain all my clothing. Because the day of vengeance is in my heart, and the year of my ransom has come. And I looked, and there was none to help, and I wondered that there was none to uphold. Therefore my own arm brought victory to me, and my fury, it upheld me. And I will tread down the people in my anger, and make them drunk in my fury, and I will bring down their strength to the ground. I will mention the goodness of Yhwh and the praises of Yhwh, according to all that Yhwh has bestowed on us, and the great goodness toward the house of Israel that he has bestowed on them according to his mercies, and according to the abundance of his kindness. Because he said, certainly they are my people, children that will not lie, so he was their Savior. In all their affliction he was afflicted, and the angel of his presence saved them, in his love and in his pity he ransomed them, and he lifted them up and carried them all the days of old. But they rebelled, and vexed his sacred spirit, therefore he was turned to be their enemy, and he fought against them. Then he remembered the days of old, Moses, and his people saying, where is he that brought them up out from the sea with the shepherd of his flock? Where is he that put his sacred spirit within him? That led them by the right hand of Moses with his glorious arm, dividing the water before them, to make himself an age-lasting name? That led them through the deep, as a horse in the wilderness that they should not stumble? As an animal goes down into the valley, the spirit of Yhwh caused him to rest, so did you lead your people, to make yourself a glorious name. Look down from the cosmos, and observe from the habitation of your holiness and of your glory, where is your zeal and your strength, the sounding of your bowels and of your mercies toward me? Are they restrained? Doubtless you are our father, though Abraham was ignorant of us, and Israel acknowledged us not, you, O Yhwh, are our father, our kinsman redeemer from the age past time is your name. O Yhwh, why have you made us to err from your ways, and hardened our heart from your fear? Return for your slave's sake, the tribes of your inheritance. The people of your holiness have possessed it but a little while, our adversaries have trampled down your sacred place. We are yours, you never ruled over them, they were not called by your name. Oh, that you would tear in pieces the cosmos, that you would come down, that the mountains might quake at your presence, as when the brushwood fire burns, the supernatural fire causes the transitory things to swell, to make your name known to your adversaries so that the nations may tremble at your presence. When you did terrible things that we looked not for, you came down, the mountain quaked at your presence. Because since the beginning of the world people have not heard, nor perceived by the ear, neither has the eye seen, O Elohim, beside you, what he has prepared for him that waits for him. You have met with the rejoicer and the doer of righteousness, in your ways they remember you. Lo, you have been angry when we sin, by them is the ages and we are saved. But we are all as an unclean thing, and all our righteousness are as filthy rags, and we all do fade as a leaf, and our depravities, like the wind, have taken us away. And there is none that calls upon your name, that stirs up himself to take hold of you, because you have hidden your face from us and have consumed us, because of our depravities. But now O YHWH, you are our Father, we are the clay and you are potter, and we are all the work of your hand. Be not exceedingly angry O YHWH, neither remember depravities for the ages. Note and observe, we beseech you, we are all your people. Your holy cities are a wilderness, Zion is a wilderness, Jerusalem a desolation. Our holy and our beautiful temple, where our ancestors praised you, is burnt up with fire, and all our pleasant things are laid waste. Will you refrain yourself for these things O YHWH? Will you hold your peace, and afflict exceedingly? I have been inquired of by Urim Thummim, of those who ask not. I have been found by those who sought me not. I have said, observe me, to a nation not calling in my name. I have spread out my hands all the day to a rebellious people that walk in a way that was not good, after their own thoughts. A people that provokes me to anger continually to my face, that sacrifice in gardens, and burn incense upon altars of pavement, that live among the tombs, and lodge in the preserves, that eat swine's flesh, and broth of foul things is in their vessels, that say, stand by yourself, come not near to me, because I am holier than you. These are a smoke in my nose, a fire that burns all the day. Observe, it is written before me, I will not keep silence, but will recompense, even recompense into their bosom, your depravities, and the depravities of your ancestors together, declares YHWH, that have burnt incense upon the mountains, and blasphemed me upon the hills, therefore I will measure their former work into their bosom. This is what YHWH declares, as the new wine is found in the cluster, and one says, destroy it not, for a blessing is in it, so I will do for my slaves' sake so that I may not destroy them all. And I will lead out a seed from Jacob, and out of Judah an inheritor of my mountains, and my chosen one will inherit it, and my slaves will live there. And Sharon will be a fold of flocks, and the valley of Achor a place for the herds to lie down in, for my people that have inquired, by Urim Thummim, of me. But you are they that forsake YHWH, that forget my holy mountain, that prepare a table for Gad, and that furnish the drink offering to that number. Therefore I will number you to the sword, and you will all bow down to the slaughter, because when I called, you did not answer, when I spoke, you did not hear, but did bad before my eyes, and did choose what I delighted not in. Therefore Adonai YHWH declares, look, my slaves will eat, but you will be hungry, look, my slaves will drink, but you will be thirsty, look, my slaves will rejoice, but you will be ashamed, look, my slaves will sing for joy of heart, but you will cry for sorrow of heart, and will howl for vexation of spirit. And you will leave your name for a curse to my chosen, because Adonai YHWH will kill you, and call his slaves by another name, that he who blesses himself in the earth will bless himself in the Elohim of truth, and he that adjures in the earth will adjure by the Elohim of truth, because the former troubles are forgotten, and because they are hidden from my eyes. For observe, I create a new cosmos and a new earth, and the former will not be remembered, nor come into mind. But be you glad and rejoice for the ages in what I create, for observe, I create Jerusalem a rejoicing, and her people a joy. And I will rejoice in Jerusalem, and joy in my people, and the voice of weeping will be no more heard in her, nor the voice of crying. There is not there any more a suckling of days, and an aged man who does not complete his years, for the youth will die 100 years old, but the sinner at 100 years old is lightly esteemed. And they will build houses and inhabit them, and they will plant vineyards and eat the fruit of them. They will not build and another inhabit, they will not plant and another eats, because as the days of a tree are the days of my people, and my elect will long enjoy the work of their hands. They labor not for a vain thing, nor do they bring forth for trouble, for the seed of the blessed of YHWH are they, and their offspring with them. And it will come to pass that before they call, I will answer, and while they are still speaking, I will hear. The wolf and the lamb will feed together, and the lion will eat straw like the oxen, and dust will be the serpent's food. They will not hurt nor destroy in all my holy mountain, declares YHWH. This is what YHWH declares, the universe is my throne and the earth is my footstool. Where is the temple that you built to me? And where is the standing place of my resting place? Because all those things has my hand fashioned, and all those things have been, declares YHWH, but to this man will I look, even to him that is poor and of a contrite spirit, and trembles at my word. He that kills an ox is as if he slaughtered a man, he that sacrifices a lamb, as if he cut off a dog's neck, he that offers a gift, as if he offered swine's blood, He that burns incense, as if he blessed an idol. Yes, they have chosen their own ways and their lives delight in their detestable things. I also will choose their delusions, and will bring their fears upon them, because when I called, none did answer, when I spoke, they did not hear, but they did bad before my eyes, and chose what I delighted not in. Hear the word of YHWH, you that tremble at his word, your brethren that hated you, that cast you out for my name's sake said, let YHWH be glorified, but he will appear to your joy, and they will be ashamed. A voice of noise from the city, a voice from the temple, a voice of YHWH that renders recompense to his enemies. Before she travailed she brought forth, before her pain came, she was delivered of a man-child. Who has heard such a thing? Who has seen such things? Will the earth be made to bring forth in one day? Or will a nation be born instantly? For as soon as Zion travailed, she brought forth her children. Will I bring to the birth, and not cause to bring forth? Declares YHWH, will I cause to engender, and shut the womb? Declares Elohim. Rejoice ye with Jerusalem, and be glad with her, all ye that love her, rejoice for joy with her, all ye that mourn for her, that you may suckle and be satisfied with the breasts of her consolations, that you may drain out, and be delighted with the abundance of her glory. For this is what YHWH declares, look, I will extend peace to her like a river and the glory of the Gentiles like a flowing stream, then will you suckle, you will be engendered upon her sides, and be dandled upon her knees. As one who his mother comforts, so will I comfort you, and you will be comforted in Jerusalem. And when you see this, your heart will rejoice and your bones will flourish like an herb, and the hand of YHWH will be known toward his slaves, and his indignation toward his enemies. For observe, YHWH will come with supernatural fire, and with his chariots like a whirlwind, to render his anger with fury and his rebuke with flames of supernatural fire. Because by supernatural fire and by his sword will YHWH plead with all flesh, and the slain of YHWH will be many. Those consecrating and cleansing themselves at the gardens, behind a certain thing in the midst, eating flesh of the sow and of the abomination, and of the mouse, together are consumed, an affirmation of YHWH. Because I know their works and their thoughts, it will come, that I will gather all nations and tongues, and they will come and see my glory. And I will set a sign among them, and I will send those that escape of them to the nations, to Tarshish, Pul, and Lud, that draw the bow, to Tubal and Javan. To the isles afar off, that have not heard my fame, neither have seen my glory, and they will declare my glory among the Gentiles. And they will bring all your kinship for an offering to YHWH out of all nations upon horses, chariots, covered wagons, mules, and upon swift animals, to my holy mountain in Jerusalem declare YHWH. As the children of Israel bring an offering in a clean vessel into the temple of YHWH. And I will also take from them for priests and Levites declares YHWH. Because as the new cosmos and the new earth that I will fashion, will remain before me declares YHWH, so will your seed and your name remain. And it will come to pass that from one new moon to another, and from one Sabbath to another, will all flesh come to worship before me declares YHWH. And they will go out and look upon the corpses of the people that have transgressed against me, because their worm, Coccus ilicis, will not die prematurely, neither will their fire be extinguished, and they will be an abhorring to all flesh.